When my feet grow heavy and my eyes go dim, hearing fades to whispers, I know your love can heal all my sin. Thank you that you're with me. Beautiful words I hear within. Know you will restore all things. Your child, you are my king. Bless your name, and we welcome you on us here. We bless your name, and we welcome you on us here. May our words be a sweet, sweet sound in your ears. May our words be a sweet, sweet sound in your ears. May our words be a sweet, sweet sound in your ears. May our words be a sweet, sweet sound in your ears. We bless your name, and we welcome you to join us here. We bless your name, and we welcome you to join us here. May our words be a sweet, sweet sound in your ears. May our words be a sweet, sweet sound in your ears. May our words be a sweet, sweet sound in your ears. May our words be a sweet, sweet sound in your ears.
Hear, O Yisrael, Yahuah our Elohim. Yahuah is one, and you shall love Yahuah your Elohim with all your heart, and with all your being, and with all your might. And these words which I am commanding you today shall be in your heart, and you shall impress them upon your children, and shall speak of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. and shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. And you shall write them on the doorpost of your house and on your gates. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Hello, everybody. Glad y'all made it. I'd say Shabbat Shalom, but it's still daylight out here. It's funny, in the wintertime, it's dark by now, but in the summer, it's still light for about another hour and a half or so, really. All righty, let me switch gears here. Hi, Dave. Hi, Yami and Rule. Hi, Peggy. Hi, Ted. Glad you're all here. And all the rest of you that haven't signed into the chat room yet. Wow, what a powerful week it's been. I've been real busy writing my new book here on our Los Lunas experience. And I'm at about chapter 9 now. So it's taken all my efforts here, but day and night, but I'm doing it. And I'm trying not to leave out even the tiniest detail, because I think this is extremely important. Hi, Kobe and Lou and Phyllis. Glad you're all here. And so I think it's extremely critical that we all understand here this evening what's going on. I received 2 instructions by Yahuah, and they were to first take this message and these captured photographs to the beloved of Yahuah, show them to them first, and expect a Bigfoot syndrome reaction from some, and then afterwards take it to the world. And so this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to be obedient to what He has given me, and I'm not going to stop until I've accomplished my mission that was given to me by our King and Master, Yahuah, our Creator, our Deliverer, our Lawgiver, our Judge, our everything, our all in all. Praise Yahuah. Praise Yahuah. Okay, so this will be probably the last public display or announcement or whatever you want to call it on this spiritual journey that my family and I had. Then I'm going to get real busy with the second part of my instructions from Yahuah. Unless Lou White wants to do another interview, of course, and then I'm always open to that. Speaking of that, Lou White did do an interview with me on one video, and then we followed it up because we were getting requests from people to do another one with larger pictures because they couldn't make out the pictures, which was my fault. I'd messed up the share screen. And so we did that. And ironically, on both of those is a hidden spiritual message to his Nazarene, which if I remember at the end of our little study here, I'll show you those messages as they were given to us by Yahuah on both of Lou's videos. I think most of you have probably seen these pictures before, but I have gotten a request by a few people here within the Nazarene community and outside of the Nazarene community to present all the pictures. And so I'm going to present all the pictures as it happened in real time In other words, in chronological order, as much as I can remember it. And then we will proceed to take it to the world, all right, afterwards. And we need all your help. This is not something that was photoshopped or made up or created in a photo shoot or something. You know, Mark August or my wife or my grandchildren, we don't have those skills to be able to do something like that. And the last thing I would want to do is lead anybody astray by pretending and making up things. I would never do that. Yahuah is too important to me, and my deliverance is too important to me to even begin to even think like that, much less do something like that. Okay, so let's see now. I guess we'll go ahead and get started on our Torah portion this evening, and I'll read that. And after we do our Torah portion, we'll get into the all the pictures, and they should be large and easy to see this time around. I kind of figured out what I'm doing here by now, so it should be quite experience and a journey for all of us, and I don't mind retaking it with you. So our Torah portion, Yazgirl, glad you're here. Bruce, glad you're here. The Torah portion will be first Yahuah, chapter 1 this evening. BYNV is what I'm reading out of. It'll be first Yahuah, chapter 1. All right, now here we go. Well, what was from the beginning? What have we heard? What we have seen with our eyes? What we have looked upon, and our hands have handled concerning the word of life. Okay, so this is an eyewitness that walked with Yahushua at the time he walked on the earth. And he's fixing to reveal to the readers or whoever is reading or hearing these words, giving their testimony and witnessing what they saw and what they understood about Yahushua. And they touched him, they slept with him, they ate with him, they walked with him, they studied with him, they were taught by him. So very credible eyewitnesses here. Okay, and the life was manifested, and we have seen and bear witness and announce to you that everlasting life, which was the Father and was manifested to us. And announce to you that everlasting life, which was with the Father, and was manifested to us. Okay, so this goes back to back to John chapter 1, right? In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with Yahuah, and the Word was Yahuah. That's what he's talking about here. We announce to you what we have seen and heard, so that you too might have fellowship with us. And truly our fellowship is with the Father and with his Son, Yahushua Mashiach, which is in the sonship role, our deliverer, the Lamb of Yahuah, the son of Adam. Okay, so it's the Father incarnated playing the sonship role as our deliverer now. That's what he's talking about there. And when we write this to you in order that your joy might be complete, and we write this to you in order that your joy might be complete. And this is the message which we have heard from him and announced to you. From who? This is the message they heard from him, Yahushua, Yahuah incarnated. and announce to you that Yahuah is light. Yahuah is light. And in him is no darkness at all. No darkness at all. Wow. That's extremely important to know, is it not? Yes, it is. Remember who revealed this to him. The message was given to them by Yahusha. He's the one that's claiming Yahuah is light. If we say that we have fellowship with him and walk in darkness, we lie and are not doing the truth. But if we walk in the light, as he is in the light, we have fellowship with one another. And the blood of Yahushua Mashiach, his son, cleanses us from all sin. Cleanses us from all sin. What does? The blood of Yahushua. Okay. So without the shedding of blood, there can be no forgiveness. So the shedding of the blood of the Lamb of Yahuwah is extremely, vitally important for deliverance, for salvation, if you will. That rang, glad you made it on. If we say that we have not sinned, we are misleading ourselves, and the truth is not in us. And the truth is not in us. What truth? What's truth? The Ruach HaKodesh. That's truth. The Ruach is truth. The word is truth. So if we have living in the light and we have truth in us, that means we have put on the armor of light, which is Yahusha, and we have the light indwelling us, which is Yahusha. We have the truth in us, which is Yahusha, the Ruach HaKodesh, the indwelling Ruach of Yahushua HaMashiach, whose name is Yahusha, by the way. Ruach HaKodesh's name is Yahusha. Okay. If we confess our sins, he is trustworthy and righteous to forgive us the sins and cleanse us from all unrighteousness. So here we see that it's critical to confess our sins. So we have to confess and then repent. Okay, so confession goes right along with repentance as far as going through the cleansing process. If we say that we have not sinned, we make him a liar, and his word is not in us. There again, and his word is not in us. What word? Yahusha, the Ruach, who is truth, is not in us. All right. So there you go. This is a short but extremely powerful chapter here in 1 John. So we find out that Yahuwah is light. We find out that he's truth. We find out that his blood cleanses us from our sins. Very important chapter here. Okay, so Yahuwah is light, says the witnesses that were living with him. So very interesting, very interesting. We'll get back into the scriptures later, but for now I'm going to take you on a little journey with me, a spiritual journey, matter of fact, and I'm going to show you all the pictures that we took and try to piece them all together for you as we're going through and keep it in real time. Maria, Lucas, glad you're both here. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to run through the story really fast, and then we're going to get into the pictures. I'm going to explain the spiritual journey to you. So here we go. We went to Los Lunas New Mexico, to go see the Covenant Stone. And we arrived there, the GPS takes us there, and we take a left in this really wide road. I mean, it's like a 4-lane highway. It's real wide. And I pull in, I look ahead, I see a little shack with scales on either side. And there was a big ridge in the back, a couple 100 yards behind it. And in the middle of the ridge was opened and the road ran through. And I looked at the shack, and then I looked above and I saw a big sign that said Waste Management Systems. And I looked over at my wife and I said, Pamela, this is not it. This is a landfill. And she said, no, it's the GPS says that we're right where we're supposed to be. And I said, this can't be. This is a landfill. It's a dump. And so she goes, well, the GPS is saying we are here where we're supposed to be. So I pulled up and I went up onto the scale onto the right of the shack, and I looked in. There was a woman in there. She opened up the window and said, may I help you? And I said, yes. We're looking for Los Lunas Covenant Stone. Have you ever heard of that? She said, oh, yeah, you're at the right place. And I said, what, do we have to drive into the landfill to see it? She goes, no. She goes, see back there behind you where you came, you went past that gate when you pulled in? And then I said, yeah, that big double gate that's locked. She said, yeah. She goes, there's a little tiny gate right on the other side of it that you have to walk through that. And then you have about a 2.5 mile hike to the Covenant Stone. And I said, well, we got a permit from the state, and they said we could drive back there as far as we could go and then walk from there. She goes, nope. She goes, you got to walk from that gate, go through that gate and walk. You got about a 2 mile hike. I said, oh, okay. So we turned around. I said, may I turn around? She said, yeah, go ahead and do a U-turn and come back through the other side. So that's what I did. I stopped on the other scale on the other side of the shack and asked her, a few more questions about how do we get there? Where is it? So she rattled off a bunch of directions, which just, made no sense to me. And so she says, go ahead and pull over at the side of the road right over there by that tree branch and park your car, and you guys have to get out and walk. So I said, okay. So I did. We got out and we started walking. We went through this little tight gate. I mean, you had to walk sideways. We had to pass everything over top of the fence, and then everybody else walked through. We couldn't carry the stuff through. It was so tight. And so once we went through there and we began walking, is when I started realizing that I was on a spiritual journey. And this big wide road that we pulled upon was the wide road that leads to destruction. And we went across the first scale, and the scale tipped against us. And we drove, meaning that we were sinners. We drove across it into the landfill property, which is the world, the pig pen, the landfill, the dump, where all the decay, the corruption, the sin is. And then we did a quick U-turn, come back across the other scale after we were cleaned up spiritually, and we were weighed again on the scale. And the scale tipped in our favor, and we were allowed to go across the scale and walk through the narrow gate. Now we got put on this road. And as we were walking down this road, these thoughts were swirling in my mind, but I wasn't real keen to anything. I was kind of excited to see the stone, but I could plainly understand it. It said that I heard in my mind that we were now on the road that many are called to walk upon. And then I thought about that little for a second, and then the verse popped into my mind, many are called, but if only a few are chosen. And I'm saying, I'm on the road that many are called to walk on. I get it, So we keep walking. We get lost. We're on the road, but we're kind of lost because we don't know which way to go. So we up after about a mile, we approach these hills, the beginning of these hills. And I stopped and I said, did she say we're supposed to take a right here at this hill and walk through those two hills or up that hill? What was she saying? Well, I said, I didn't hear her. I said, great. I don't know where to go. And so all about that time, my grandson looked down and said, hey, Paul, there's a arrow pointing that way. And I looked, and for sure there was a arrow marker made of rocks on the ground pointing straight ahead. So I said, oh, that's cool. Let's keep walking. Just walked the way the arrow's pointing, which was what kept us on the road where we're on. So we just kept walking. After about another short distance, eighth of a mile or a quarter of a mile or so, I guess, wasn't too far. I stopped and I said, man, I don't see any more arrows. I don't know what, should we just keep walking, you think, on this road around that curve? We could see a curve about a half a mile ahead. The road veered to the right. And so we're sitting there discussing that, and all of a sudden, my grandson looked down and said, hey, Paul, there's another arrow. And I said, where? So he showed me it was a little arrow, and it was actually covered up with grass and stuff and kind of hidden. You couldn't hardly see it. And I said, oh, yeah. I said, let's go that way then. So we got off the road and we went to the right, and we're kind of walking across sand and dirt now. There's really no path. There's kind of more of an open area. And we just kind of kept walking toward the way the arrow was pointing. And finally, at the other end of the open area, it narrowed down and there was a path there. And so I said, well, I guess we're supposed to get on this path. And then the kids hollered out, yeah, there's another arrow. And I looked at it, and yeah, it was. So we just walked on, kept on going. The road got narrow, then we had a path. So we walked on down through there, and we came to the end, and we were up against a barbed wire fence. And there was no more arrows, and I'm like, okay, great. What do we do now? I said, do you think we should? I said, that may be somebody's property, private property over there. That's why that fence is there. So maybe we should take a right and walk along the fence down toward that rocky hill there against the fence. So as we were sitting there debating that, all of a sudden my granddaughter hollers out, hey, Paul, there's another arrow. And I said, where? So then she pointed across the gate. There was another little gate like we came through at the beginning, but this time it was the same exact kind of gate, but it was even more tight. And I couldn't hardly get through it. I almost got stuck. It was so tight when I finally went through it sideways, kind of like weaving around. It was like a V inside of a V. And so they passed everything over to me, and then they all came through. Well, there was a little tiny arrow on the other side of the gate that was pointing to the right. And so I looked over there, and the only thing I could see was a path about 12 inches or so wide. It looked like a cow path where the cows had been walking along the barbed wire fence down in that direction. And so we walked down the path along the barbed wire fence for about another quarter of a mile. And we get down to the end, and all of a sudden everything changed. The path kind of stopped. Then there was a dry creek bed to the left. It was about 15 feet wide. And then as it got right where we were standing, it became rocks. It wasn't sandy creek bed anymore. It was rocks. It was still a creek bed, but filled with big rocks as far as you could see. And there was big rocky hills on the right in the front of us and on the left. So we were right in the middle of all these rocky hills. And so I'm thinking, man, where should we go? There was an arrow on the other side of the fence pointing in a weird direction. I said, there's an arrow, but that makes no sense. Maybe we were supposed to stay on that side, So we're debating, and all of a sudden my grandson hollers out, Paul, here's an arrow scratched on this rock. And I looked, and there it was. It was real faded. You could barely see it. But nevertheless, there was a rock that somebody had scratched on, an arrow that somebody had scratched on the rock, pointing up the hill to the left. And then all of a sudden, the kids pointed out again that there was a pile of rocks there by the creek bed, the dried up creek bed, stacked up about 2 feet high, maybe. And I said, well, apparently we're supposed to cross this creek bed here to the other side and go up this hill. And the path on the other side. So you see the path? I said to my wife, she says, yeah, it looks dangerous. And it was real narrow, about 8 to 12 inches wide with a bunch of rocks all mixed into the sand. And I said, well, I think that's the way we're supposed to go. So we crossed over the creek and got onto the little rocky path that led up the hill, and off we went. And there was a big ravine to the right, full of rocks. And so the farther you went up, the deeper the ravine got. And so we followed that, and I turned around to my wife and I said, hey, are you seeing the spiritual journey yet? And she goes, what do you mean? I said, we're walking up the narrow path. We came through the narrow gate. Now we're walking up the narrow path, which is hard pressed. Very few find it. And the way for us has been prepared in the wilderness, and we're being led by children. And so she just kind of said, I'm starting to believe you, because I've been teasing her about it as we were coming up to this point. But anyways, it was really starting to add up, almost to where it was obvious. So we continued up this path. As we went up, the path got more narrow to where pretty soon, there was places where it was like only 6 to 8 inches wide, and it was very treacherous. And so I had to help the children along and around those kind of critical places, and got them beyond that to a safer place behind a rock or something, and made them stay there. As I went down and got my wife and dragged her up there. Well, my wife, she's had 2 knee surgeries, year and a half, 2 years ago, whatever it was. So she's better now, but still it was a strain on her. And so she struggled to get up this hill. And at this time, it was pretty hard on her just to walk that distance, So now she had to go up this hill. Well, she said, no. I said, are you okay? Do you want to wait down here, or we go up there? No, nothing's going to stop me from going up there. I came this far. I'm going to see it. And I said, okay. So I helped her up there as best I could in different, more critical areas of the path. So we get to the top, and now we can see pretty good. We got a real nice view in every direction, and the path got real skinny, and then came to a plateau or summit, which was very small. It was like 2 by 2 an area. Now, I didn't realize it, but I've been looking at these photos and doing interviews with Lou and writing a book. I finally, I think it was yesterday, matter of fact, I was just really staring at these pictures, and I didn't realize it before, but at this little plateau where we had stopped, and I told them to rest there, you could see the Covenant Rock from there. You could see everything from there. I didn't even realize it in the pictures, But in real time, when we're standing there, I said, why don't you guys take a break? And she had an umbrella. She popped it open and gave them some shade, and they were all sitting there under the shade on a rock. And I said, you guys stay here and rest a minute. And I said, I'll see if I can find it. And then I kind of looked around. I looked down. From there, the path went down. And I saw it. And I said, there it is. And everybody said, where? I said, it's right there. I said, y'all stay here and rest. I'll be right back. And so I went down there. And as I was approaching the rock, I saw graffiti written all over it. And my blood began to boil. I became very angry. My bones were just filled with fire. I walked down in front of the, as I got closer, I could see more names. I got more mad and angry about it. And I got down there, and I'm thinking, why would somebody desecrate this? Writing their names all over. When I got real close, I could see it was names. They'd written their names on it. I know so-and-so was here or whatever. And then there was some other graffiti, but anyways, I got mad. I walked right up to the front of the Covenant Stone, and I stood there and I stared at it for a while. And I saw that it was desecrated. The first command had been scratched out by somebody. And then to the left, someone had poured something on it, which I didn't realize it was oil at that particular moment, but I soon realized that it was oil. And my wife suggested somebody, after she saw it, that maybe somebody had decided to anoint the rock with oil, and they used the wrong oil, maybe like motor oil or something, you know, is what it looked like. But anyways, it made me even more mad. And then I walked around to where the little tree was laying up against the rock. And the branches were all laying up against the rock and was hard pressed against the rock, right tight up against the rock, a lot of the branches. And the rock itself is only about 12, 14 feet tall. It's not real tall to get on top, but and the tree's about the same height as the rock. So anyways, I looked around there, and then I could see a whole lot more names written everywhere. And it really just made my head but kind of explode at that point. And so almost involuntarily, I looked down, almost like a knee-jerk type reaction, I guess. I bent over and I saw a rock that was real sharp, thin, sharp, and pointy. It was black rock, and I reached down and I grabbed that. It looked like an arrowhead, a half an arrowhead or something. And I grabbed it, and I stood up on this rock, and I was going to inscribe his name in the right side of this stone underneath the tree branches. But when I stood up on this rock, my head kind of hit the tree branches, so I came back down off of the rock. And then I just reached up underneath the bough of the tree there, and I just was going, I was mad as I was scribing, made it real thick. You know, I couldn't get into the rock of course. You know, I couldn't inscribe it by scratching it, and I made it real thick because I was just going up and down, really. You know, and I wrote Yahuah. And then I start, well, right before that happened, I heard Yahuah say to me in my mind, I mean, it was very clear. And I can always tell when it's Yahuah saying something versus my thoughts. And how I know that is because my thoughts seem to come from a different direction, if you will. And they're within me. I can tell it's me, right? But when Yahuah talks, it seems to come from another direction that's alien from my personal thoughts. It's like it penetrates my thoughts from a different direction. And that's how I realize that Yahuah was speaking with me in my thoughts. And so this happened, and he said to me, they esteem me with their own name. They esteem me with their name. And that's when my head about blew off, you know, and that's when I reached out and grabbed that stone. So anyways, I wrote scratched his name, Yahuah. I underlined it to highlight his name, and then I started seeing other names below that. So I just kept doing it through all them names, ended up putting 8 lines on there, which I counted later. Somebody on NetStreamLife.com pointed out that there were 8 lines. And that's why I know there's 8. But anyways, this was under the bough of the tree. To the right, around the corner, to the right, underneath the bough of the tree. So if you stood in front of the covenant rock, you can't really see it unless you kind of tip your head a little bit, or like around the corner, and then you can see it. You can barely see it sitting in front of the covenant stone, but not real well. You have to tip your head around the corner to be able to see what's written there. So anyway, you know, at this point, I motioned for my wife and the grandkids to come on down. They came down. We were sitting there. I'd kind of cooled down by this time. And we were sitting there looking at the rock, and I pointed to her how they scratched out the first command. I explained to the kids that this was the 10 Commandments, which they're fairly aware what that is. And they call it Yahuah's words, is what the kids call it. And I showed her the oil, and she says, "Oh, you know what? I think somebody tried to anoint the oil, and they used the wrong oil." And I said, "Yeah, it kind of looks like motor oil or something, you know." And it really blotted out some of the Hebrew script on the second, third, and a little bit of the fourth command there, you know, toward the end. And they were writing. It's written from right to left, like the Hebrew do. So anyway, we're sitting there talking a little bit, and then I said, "Hey, how about since we're here and this is the 10 Commandments here, why don't we say Yahuah's 10 words while we're sitting here?" So the kids, you know, they agreed to that, and so we did. My wife videotaped it, and as we were talking, and I mean, as we were reciting the 10 love commands, all of a sudden in the photo and the video, this arc appears. It's got kind of whitish, rainbowish type arc, comes in low. And as we're saying the more we speak, the higher the arc goes, and it seems to be reacting to our voice. It's almost like it's this light is on a frequency, like a light frequency type thing. And this is me and Lou White was talking about that on that first video. And something happened I'm going to go over with you later. But anyway, at the end, the kids got excited and they jumped up and said the 10th commandment basically on their own. I just kind of stay quiet and let them do it. And then they jumped up and said that. And then and I said, "Hallelujah." And they both repeated me. They said, "Hallelujah." And then the granddaughter raised her hand straight up and screamed, "Yahuah." And that frequency light jumped way up by the tip of her hand. And it was just vibrating like crazy up there, like, and then she put her hand down, that thing dropped. I don't know what that was, but it's definitely on the video. Kind of amazing. So anyway, after this point, I had taken a treasure kit. I had a metal detector. We had our digging tools, and we had our little spotters and all of this with us. And we were going to look for artifacts and gold and proof that the Hebrew were there and all this and that, because there's videos out there. Hi, Isaiah Diaz. Glad you're here, bro. That people were saying, you know, that maybe that somebody did that later on, wrote that Hebrew, and it wasn't really Hebrews that settled over and all this and that. So we're going to look around for it so we can find any proof, right? So I says to my grandson, I said, "Hey, you ready to go? You want to go look for some treasure?" And he goes, "Yeah, sure, Paul." And so I grabbed the metal detector, which is an Equinox 800. It's a really good one, and he grabbed the bag of tools, and I said, "I saw a little game trail on the other side as I was coming down." I said, "Let's go over there and take that up to the top," and we'll look up there. So we got up and we walked around there and skedaddled up the side of this hill on this little game trail. It was about 6 inches wide, maybe. And it only took us about 15 seconds to get to the top. I mean, it's not like 12, 14 feet tall, right? I mean, 30 seconds max, right? I mean, we were scattered, you know, we scrambled up there fairly quickly. So we're up on the hill. We look up, get up there, and it just opens up like a plateau. And I says, "Oh, wow." So let's go over there where all that grass is. Maybe we'll have some more luck, better luck over there, get out of these rocks. And as time we got over there, I mean, we didn't walk that far. I mean, maybe 30 yards or something. And by the time we got over there, well, what we found out was the rocks were everywhere. It just the grass had grown up between the rocks. It was still just as rocky. So we're over there. We basically have our backs turned to the covenant stone now, and we're doing the sweeping with the metal detector and trying to find treasure, earthly treasure, right? Okay. So this now is about 11:45 a.m. And at this particular time that we were searching for earthly treasure, my wife and my granddaughter heard a noise. My wife did. My granddaughter says she didn't hear the noise. But then they had an encounter with Yahuah. Yahuah appeared as light on top of the stone to them. And this was exactly 11:45 when she took the picture of the light. And so I know it had to be just about the time that my metal detector went nuts. So my metal detector goes off. Sounds like I just struck Fort Knox or something, some kind of cache of gold buried there or something. I mean, I've never heard it go off like that. Everything was maxed out. And I was just beside myself, and Case, and he was jumping up and down. He was happy and joyful, and there was something there, Paul. We hit some gold or something, And so, I said, wait a minute here now. So I took it away and I moved position. I did it again. So it went off like I hit Fort Knox. So no matter what I did or what position I tried to do it in, this thing was going off maximum levels. Okay, so on the photo my wife took, it was 11:45. All right. So, and this was just within seconds after we got up there and walked over there a little ways and started doing that. I mean, so it had our attention, and we were totally focused on earthly treasure. So I told my grandson, I said, dig just a little bit of dirt out of there, man. Right there in that spot, there's the pinpoint. And I pinpointed it, and he dug up about 2 inches of dirt. Little guy, he couldn't hardly dig around them rocks. There wasn't much dirt at all, really, to speak of. But he stepped back, and I turned that thing on. I started sweeping again, and nothing, man. There was nothing. I couldn't even get that thing to beep. So I'm over here playing with the adjustments, playing with the controls, sweeping in different patterns, moving around, walking around it, doing it. All kinds of stuff to try to get this thing. I said, this just don't make any sense. It was just going off like I've never heard one go off before. Now it won't even beep because you dug that little bit of dirt out there. So we're looking through the dirt he dug out. So what's going on? There's nothing in that little bit of dirt either, So finally we give up. And I said, well, maybe something just weird happened to the detector, And maybe the battery's getting low or something. I looked at it, and the battery is fully charged. I mean, well, that ain't the problem. So anyways, I said, come on, let's walk over this way a little bit. I said, there's so many rocks here. Even if there is something down there, we wouldn't be able to dig it out anyway. And he kind of agreed with me, and he walked over and took his foot and he kicked the dirt back over into the hole there, filled up the little tiny bit of dirt he dug out. And so we turned around, started walking. And so just to kind of break the moment, I said to him, hey, I know what we can do. And he said, what? And I said, let's walk over to the top of the rock and scare the girls. He goes, oh, okay. So he got all into that. So we're sneaking over there like we're a couple of spies or something, and or scouts or whatever. So we get over there, and I said, shh, don't say nothing so they don't hear us. So walked over to the edge and looked over the edge. We couldn't see them. So they were tucked up underneath the rock there by the covenant stone, sitting in that little shade, the shade that little tree was providing, and we couldn't see them from up there. And I said, we can't see him. And then, my grandson hollers out, Grammy, we're up here. And I said, wow, that just blows the spy thing, right? You just gave us away, man. And he just started giggling a little bit. And then she come out and saw us up there, and she stepped back a few steps. It was a small area in front of the covenant stone that you could stand. You couldn't really walk around too much. You'd trip over rocks. I mean, it's real rocky around there. And so she steps back, takes a few pictures of us on top of the rock. And that was 12 o'clock sharp when this happened. 12 o'clock sharp. So we backed off. She went back under the protection of the rock and into the shade. Me and him backed off the rock. And I said, man, it's hot, man. And I took off my hat and I wiped my head with my hat a little bit. And I looked up like this at the sun, man, and it was straight overhead. And I said, man, it's got to be noontime or real close to noontime right now. And the sun was straight overhead. It was real high in the sky and small. And it's what it looked like when I looked up at it. And then I put my hat back on and I said, come on, let's get down off of here, man. So we walked around the other side of the rock that we came up on the opposite side, and there was no game trail there. It was just rocks, big rocks, and a lot of loose little rocks. And so I said, be careful going down here so you don't slip. So we started walking down. It took us 2 minutes to get down that side because that's how rough and how many rocks there was. We came up the other side in like 15 seconds flat, with no resistance whatsoever. But going down, we come down, we're seeing lizards here and there. We even saw one that looked like a chameleon. It was like half green, half brown, and its tail was broken off about halfway. And we checked that out for just a few seconds, and it dashed down behind a rock. So we went on down, came to the tree, and we walked around the tree because you couldn't get between the tree and the rock because the tree was laying on the rock. It was hard pressed against the rock. The trunk and everything was. So we walked around that tree, and as soon as we come around the tree, and we jumped off a couple big rocks and got down close to the ground where the covenant stone was, my wife snapped a couple pictures at us. It took us a couple pictures. The time on those pictures is 12:02. All right. So my metal detector goes off. My wife and granddaughter see a bright light on the rock. My grandson and I come over and stand on the rock. It's 12 o'clock noon. The picture and the metal detector was 11:45 a.m. 15 minutes later, we're on the rock. 2 minutes later, we're on the ground. 12:02. So everything happened. These three main pictures surrounding the main event here was within 17 minutes on the timeline. All right. So then, after she took a couple pictures, she said, "Did you guys hear that noise?" And I said, "No." She says, "Did you guys see the light?" And I said, "No, what are you talking about?" And she said, "Well, I don't really know how to explain it," but she said, "Everything changed, Mark, but yet it all remained the same." I'm like, huh? She goes, "Yeah." She goes, "That's best. That's all. The best way I can explain it to you. Everything changed, but it remained the same." And I said, "Well, what are you talking about?" She goes, "I don't know." She goes, I heard a noise, and it was like a rhythm. It wasn't the wind. It was a rhythm. And she said, "Then I saw a light." And she said, "The light hurt my eyes. It was bright like the sun. So I closed my eyes real tight and I turned my head. I held my right arm up toward where I knew the light was coming from, where I had seen it. And I just pointed my arm in that direction and snapped a picture." And I said, "Wow, let me see a picture." She goes, "Well, my battery's getting low." She goes, "I want to save my battery." And she goes, "But I did get the sound too." And I said, "You did?" She goes, "Yeah, after the light went away," she said, "I turned the video on and I started scanning like back and forth to try to record the sound." And you can see, when you see that, you can hear her tell my granddaughter, "Shh," like that. And then she's doing this and trying to get that sound recorded. And then it quits doing, the sound goes away, so she turns off her phone. All right. So I'm like, okay, kind of not really getting what she's saying. It's just kind of going over my head, right? So I'm not really pressing the issue. And so we sit all down and we just look around. We talk about the rocks and in the covenant stone, and we're making some small talk and blah, 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 you know. And so finally, it's like 108 degrees by now. I mean, it's getting really hot. And so I could see the kids' face were flush, you know, they were red and pinkish, and there my wife as well. And I said, you know what, let's just get out of here. We've seen what we came to see. There's not gonna be no treasure hunting here. There's too many rocks. We'll never find anything around all these rocks. And so we all agreed, and so we left. And it was extremely treacherous. It was harder to go down than it was to come up, because the rocks, as you were going down, were slipping under the weight, you know, under your shoe from our body weight, you know, and the sand was loose, so it was more slippery. So it took us probably twice as long to go down as it did to come up, really. I mean, I had to take them about 10 feet at a time and leave them, go back and get another one, and then go back and get the other one. And we had to do that all the way down, just so that they wouldn't slip and get hurt. So anyway, we got down there and we left. Well, I had this like burning inside of me as we were just ready to go around the corner and go out of the sight. And I looked back at everything, you know, and I just felt like I was being drawn up to a hidden mountain, you know, but I knew I couldn't go. And surely couldn't take my wife and kids up that far. It was quite a further journey than the Covenant Stone was just the gateway. And there was a huge rocky ravine that led up to the top of Hidden Mountain. And although I wanted to, I knew I couldn't. So I just kind of looked back at it and said, I'll be back, and left. And so we worked our way back toward the truck. And I was taking in all this spiritual stuff, but I wasn't really locked on it and keen because I didn't know all the details yet. We have not looked at any of the pictures or anything. We weren't even talking about that, the light or the sound anymore. We were talking about other things. And so anyway, we go back through the gate, we get back on that road, and we go down, and we come up to this big rock that we passed that had an old antique bed frame and springs in the back of the rock. It was all rusty sitting back there. And we started approaching, and I said, man, somebody must have been sleeping out here or camped out here at one time or something. They just left the bed frame there, you know. And so we got really close to it, and I looked at my grandson and said, let's go check that thing out, man. He goes, okay. So we walked over there, you know. I was trying to see if it was a steel bed or a brass bed or what it was, you know, but it was so rusty. I said, this has to be steel or iron or something. And so we're standing there looking, and all of a sudden I glance back or glance around, and there's broken glass everywhere, in all colors of glass everywhere, scattered everywhere, laying all over the place. And I told my grandson, I said, well, man, somebody must have been back here doing some target practicing and shooting bottles, had them setting up all over this bed or something. I mean, it was amazing how much glass was out there. It's just splattered everywhere, right? And every color you can think of, too. It wasn't just like beer bottles or anything. It was red and blue and yellow and green, all kinds of colors. So I looked back at the rock, and there was a big giant hole in the rock about 2 feet off the ground, about maybe 18-inch hole. And I said, well, look at that big hole in the back of that rock. And so let's check that out. And we walked over, and we got up close to it. I could see bedding and twigs and grass, you know, that had fallen out of the hole and was coming down the ramp and on a little bit on the rock, and then laying down on the ground beneath. And I said, well, something's living up in there. So when they come out, they're dragging the bedding out, you know, of their little spot they're sleeping at, right? And I said, might be something up in there now, you know. So we looked up, we got kind of close, snuck over there and looked up in there. And I could see that the tunnel went up and around pretty far, almost looked like it went to the middle of the rock. This was a big rock. It was just like the rock that the covenant stone is laying under. And I thought, wow, man, something might still be up in there. And I said, well, I don't want to get too much closer. We might spook it. It might come out and bite us in the face or something. We're looking up in there, you know. And just about that time, that verse in Revelation 6 popped into my mind about the day of Yahuah, when all these people are going to be hiding in the holes in the caves of these mountains and screaming for the mountains to fall down on them, right, and kill them. And then I looked at that hole, and that verse was just real loud in my mind. I said, man, this is creepy. Let's get out of here. So we all just kind of shuffled out of there real quick and got back over there on the path, and then we continued on. Okay, so as we get back onto the main road finally, which was a kind of a relief in itself because it's flat, even, you know, and wide, and it's easy to walk on. And so I know my wife especially was extremely happy to get back on that smooth, flat surface, right? And so anyway, we get on there and we start walking. We come to within 75 yards maybe of our vehicle, and I stopped to take a pit stop, caught back up. They're standing there taking pictures on the side of the road. My granddaughter turns around, comes running over to me. And so I walk back up there with her, holding her hand. We walk back over there, and then I said, what's going on here? And she says, a Bigfoot track. And so I looked down, and there was looked like a human footprint, about 16 inches long, maybe 6 inches in width. And it had a perfect heel and a perfect big toe. It was perfect. I mean, you couldn't draw it any better. And just got a couple pictures of that. I was looking around there a little bit, and I noticed a small dried up creek bed running next to the road. And I kind of looked around there, and I said, oh, you know what happened here? I said, the water washed out underneath the road, the dirt underneath the road, and made it hollow under there, like a little cavern. And whoever stepped here, the weight of the person that stepped there collapsed the dirt into that cavern, that washout. And that's why that made that. Because other than that, you know, that would have never imprinted like that, because it was really hard pressed, and the clay was very hard and parched. So anyway, it was down and impressed in there, imprinted in there about a half an inch all the way around. It had collapsed about a half inch. And you could see where the clay that had collapsed under the weight was kind of like it had a little bow in the middle, almost like an arch of a foot or something created that. And the toes went even deeper. So that when whoever stepped there, when the toes went deeper, they must have pulled their foot up backwards like that, because it didn't mess up those toe prints at all. I mean, they came out perfect. So anyway, we got pictures of that too. And at this point, I heard this noise in speaking in my mind again, that was coming at a different angle, and said, some of these people are going to look at this with a Bigfoot syndrome attitude, which I didn't really understand at the time, but I do now. And then as I was getting to walk away, I heard in my mind, coming from a different angle than my own thoughts do, like it penetrated my thoughts, right? And it said, you will see me as though looking into a mirror. As looking into a mirror. That's what it was. And I didn't understand that either. I do now. The camera lens, right? Doesn't it look, camera lens is like you're looking in a mirror. It takes a picture of your image. and then stores it in a memory where you can go back and pull it back up and look at it again as you're looking in a mirror at yourself? Exactly, it does. So anyway, now I understand what that was all about, but I didn't at the time. Remember, we hadn't seen any of these pictures up to this point. So we go, we squeeze through the gate, get in our car, drive over to Los Lunas, eat lunch, drive back to the hotel, and then we all decide to go swimming. Okay, so after we went swimming and everything and came back up to the room, and we all got changed and dried off and changed and all that. I said, I told my wife, so let's look at them pictures you took. She goes, oh, we can't. I said, why not? She goes, well, my battery died. So we're down there in a swimming pool for like 3 hours, right? Nobody else was in the swimming pool, so we had it all to ourselves. It was really nice. But so I said, what? She goes, yeah, the battery's dead. And I says, well, you should have put it on the charger. I said, throw it on the charger, man. We'll look at them later then. So she put it on the charger. This was on the 6th day. And so we were within a few hours of Yom Shabbat, And so she puts her phone on the charger. She goes and orders pizza and stuff to eat. And it all came before Yom Shabbat. So we had it all there, everything we needed. So we didn't have to buy anything on Yom Shabbat. And we ended up turning on the TV, whatever everybody was doing. And then we sat down, we ate dinner, pizza and whatever. And it had become Yom Shabbat, getting dark. And we were sitting there. I suppose it was a few hours later after she put her phone on there, 2 or 3 hours later. And finally she gets up, she walks over and grabs her phone. And I says, is it charged? She said, yeah. So she come over and everybody huddled. Me and her were sitting on the couch and the kids come running over there and huddled around us because they wanted to see the pictures too, So we started looking at the pictures, and then of course the first ones, was okay and everything, but then all of a sudden, bam, we got to that, the one with the light, and, we just spun out. And I said immediately, as soon as I saw it, I said, that's Yahuah. And it just spun from there, and of course we were up late discussing all these pictures, and then especially that one. But she says, yeah, and then she dug up the little video she made of the sound. And she was listening to it, and she was like, man, that's the sound, but I can't tell what it's doing or what it is, And finally, I got impatient. I reached it over. I said, give me that phone. I took it and I stuck it up to my ear like that. Now I was listening real carefully to it against my ear, but maybe a little bit away. And I recognized it immediately. And I took it off my ear and I said, this is saying Yahuah. I said, I recognize it, man, from the videos that I showed people on my channel, YouTube channel before. And she goes, really? I said, yeah. I said, I recognize it. It's the exact same sound that you make when you breathe in and out in your bronchial tubes, the sound your bronchial tubes make when you breathe in and out. I stuck it up there again, and I could hear it perfectly. Yeah. Ooh. Yeah. Ooh. It's like that twice. It does it twice. And so I gave it back to her, and she listened. She goes, oh, you're right. That is what it's saying. So he announced himself. Now remember, this started happening before the light, and it continued to happen after the light. And so he announced who he was. He proclaimed who he was to my wife and granddaughter before he appeared to them as a bright light, brighter than the sun, extremely white. And so anyway, we went through these and everything, and then we Then we went to bed, got up the next day late. We slept in, and because we were up late, and it was Yom Shabbat, so we were all kicked back, taking it easy. And we're looking at the pictures some more. And maybe perhaps that's what I was doing at the time. I kept trying, what was I doing when she called me, my little granddaughter? But anyways, maybe that's what I was doing. Maybe I was looking at them pictures. But anyway, I'm sitting on the couch there, and my granddaughter's got the window. It was a really big window, and we were on the very top floor, way to the back, the last room on the left of the 6th floor. And so we had a grand view of everything behind the hotel. And it began to rain. It was the monsoon season, so the rain came out of nowhere, and it was starting to rain everything. And all of a sudden, my granddaughter, she's sitting there on a chair facing out the window. She hollers out, "Paul, come and see. There's a rainbow." And I'm like, okay, so if I've seen a lot of rainbows, I'm doing something right now. I think I was looking at them pictures. And so she says, "No, Paul," she says, "you have to come and see this. This is a special rainbow." I said, "Oh, okay." So I got up and I went over there, patted her on her little head, and I was looking out the window, and I saw this rainbow end to end. I saw the whole rainbow. It was a beauty. And then right up above it was a double rainbow, and I could see it end to end, but it was more faint than the one underneath it. And so I agreed with her. I said, "Yeah, that's a special looking rainbow there." And so I went back over and sat down. Of course, she stayed there and stared at it for hours, for long as it was there, mostly. And I didn't think much about that, really, though my wife did go over and take a picture of it. She snapped a picture of the rainbow for her granddaughter. I think she enticed her to do it. I can't remember now. But anyway, we got a picture of it. And so that was about it. Now, we went back home, and after we got back home, a lot more came forward, and we started realizing a whole lot more of what happened out there. And I'll explain it to you as we start looking at these pictures now. I'll get into more detail of what we learned later on after we got back home. All right. So if everything works out, I'm going to try to share screen now with y'all. All right, so I think this is it. No, that's not. Hang on. Here we go. I think I can do it now. All right. Now, is everybody seeing this big? Because last time we did this, it was small. Somebody let me know if you can see this picture fairly big in the chat room. Just say, yeah, it's big or whatever. Somebody. Can y'all see this big picture, or does it look real small to you? Somebody. I guess nobody's going to answer. All right. Okay. Thanks, Lucas. All right. So here we go. Okay, good. All right. So here we go now. I think I can blow it up. Yeah, I can over here. So, okay, cool. All right. So this is we came through the gate and we're standing on the parched road. the level road that many are called to walk on. It's not the wide road that leads to the landfill, but it's the wide road that many are called to walk on. Many are called, but only few are chosen, right? So many are called to walk on this road. All right, so that was the beginning of the spiritual journey. We're just sitting there adjusting the strap or something there. I don't know, but not doing a whole lot. But anyway, let's go on to the next. So there we go. You can see the hills. See those hills way over there? Those are the hills we're heading for, basically, over and in between them somewhere. There's no need blowing that one up. And we're still having problems with the strap or something here. You can see the road's long. See, the road's pretty long. There's some barbed wire fence to our left and dried up creek beds over here. I'm sure y'all can see. And you see how parched the land is, the road we're on. Very pressed, hard pressed and parched. There's more of the creek bed, dried up creek bed area there off to, I believe, our left, yeah, as we're walking. This is not a snake. This is just a tree branch or a root or something. Okay, here's the arrow. Is when I told you we stopped and we didn't know which way to go. This was the arrow. See, it was kind of hidden with these little bushes here. You couldn't really see it. But and then even the one over here had grass growed up in it. But this is the one my grandson, first one he had noticed, that got us going on the right track. After about the second, third arrow, we were fully aware that we were supposed to follow these markers. It's someone had prepared for us away in the wilderness. So I believe that I had the message from Yahuah that he had sent a brother out ahead of us to prepare the way for us in the wilderness. And this is, I think, some of the arrows that he had done. Although I think there was some already there from other people. Looked like they were older, but nevertheless, that's the message I got. Here's another one as we were I think this is the one that when we walked out, if I'm not mistaken, when we walked out into the open area, and then we finally came into this one that pointed down the little trail at the other end of the open area is what I believe this is. So here we go now. This is the open area I'm talking about. See, here's that arrow we were just looking at down here at the bottom. And so we're content. We're following these arrows. We're fully aware of markers now. We're looking for the arrows with every step. So it leads us over here and then down this path. You see that path right there goes off to the left? And we go down that way, and we're heading back here into these hills that you're seeing back. We're going around this one, and it's back around this one, I believe. And we didn't know that at the time, but I do now. So here's another marker we found as we were journeying. This was a pretty good one here. I think this one had been there before, but I'm not positive of that. You can see my Equinox 800 bad boy metal detector here. It's one of the best ones on the market, really. So we were trying to find us some earthly treasure, the real treasure. That now I know that the real treasure is everlasting life in Mashiach. That was the real treasure we should have been hunting for. All right? Should have been hunting for Yahuah, seeking out Yahuah, which my wife and my granddaughter did do. as we were seeking out the earthly treasure, they were seeking out the spiritual treasure, and they found the real treasure, didn't they? We come up with nothing. All right. We know I know that I have the Ruach, you know, so it's okay. I'll get into that later. All right, so here we are. Here's some more little markers along the way. Some cacti. Here's a video. I can't blow up the videos, but that's a pretty good view of the area that we're in and the path that we're heading out on, or we're continuing on, I should say. Little desert flower. Now the desert blooms with flowers in the springtime, and it's not as hot. So anybody who thinks they might want to go out here and look at the covenant stone, you know, I'd say spring and fall would be the better times, not in the middle of the summer like we did. All right. If you want to see the flowers in spring, of course, would be the time to go. Here we are. My wife's back here lagging behind with her bad knees. We stop for her and let her catch up once in a while. Don't feel too sorry for her. We don't leave her behind. We stop and wait on her about a dozen times before we reach there. There's couple bushes that were there. Look at the rocks. I mean, they're just rocks everywhere. Look at all these rocks. Amazing. Okay, here's another video of the situation. Look at all the rocks. Quite amazing. It's a dried up creek bed right here. Okay, now here's the video I was talking about. For some weird reason, I really never noticed this video till like today. Just kind of overlooked this one for some reason. But right here, in this bottom left-hand corner here is the path we're on. It goes up here between these two rocks, and then it turns around this way and goes to the left edge. And here you can see my metal detector head and my grandson's elbow as we're starting to walk up. This is right after we crossed over the creek. I think this right here goes down and around and back down there and becomes the dirt creek. So no, this would be halfway up. This is like halfway up there. So here we are. We walked. See, look how narrow this is. Or you could have went this way and around this way. But the thing here I want to show you is several things on this. Let me blow it up just a little bit. There's the covenant stone in this picture. Yeah, so we're actually almost on top here. Then that's where we're at. So this is the path that comes up and curves right here and goes that way up to right about where his elbow is, just right up in here somewhere. Is that little plateau where they sit down on. Maybe it's right here. This could be the little plateau. I think this is it right here. But anyway, here's the covenant stone right there. That's it right there. There's the tree that is very important in this adventure. Here is this tree right here. These are the leaves laying over top of the covenant stone right here. There's the trunk of the tree. You can see you can't walk through there. We had to walk around it when we come down like that. But this tree, these leaves are pressing hard up against this rock. It's growing right up against the rock. You can see it from here pretty good, what I'm talking about. So where I wrote his name was right about here on this, around this stone. You have to go around this stone over here by this tree and then write it over here is what I did, right in there. So you couldn't hardly see it. It was on that flat side. You'll get a better look at that. But what I was trying to point out here is that, see this right here? This is the gateway to Hidden Mountain. So they would walk up this path, go past the gateway here. The commandments are written on their gate. And then you walk through here and around here and snakes around like this and then goes back behind this hill to Hidden Mountain. And that's where it was believed that their village was. There's things up there that make people believe that they were up here. It was where they were living. So we can probably get a bit better picture of that here in a second. Here it is again. You can see the path. It goes up here between these rocks. I think it's right here, and it goes back behind there and around there somewhere over on top of here. Back behind it, you can't really see it. Now, I didn't go up there. I wanted to, but it was just too far away, and I didn't want to leave my wife and grandkids by themselves, and they couldn't have made the journey anyway. So we stuck where there they are. So we walked. Here's the path. We walked up through here, up in here, and this is the little plateau where they sat down and waited. And at this point, I didn't know that the stone was right here. Till I walked back over here, gave her phone, and then I was standing over here, and I just turned around and looked down, and I saw it right here. You can see the stone right there. And we didn't even know it was there when we took this picture. When I took that picture, we never noticed it. We didn't even see it.
Number 1.
Here's a video.
I am Yahuah. Have no others before my face. Number 2. You do not bow down to images. Number 3. You do not take the name of Yahuah to ruin. And number 4. Remember Yom Shabbat.
There's the light.
He started as
it just flashed.
Number 5. Honor your father and your mother. Number 6. Do not murder. Number 7. Do not break wedlock. Number 8. Do not steal. Number 9. Do not bear false witness against your neighbor.
Number 10.
Number 10. Do not covet.
There's the light frequency.
Anything that belongs to your neighbor. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Yahuah.
See the light frequency vibrating to our voices there, especially hers right at the end. But here's a good shot at the coven stone as well. Here's the oil spot that I was telling you about. That wasn't there on any other pictures that we have. So this is something somebody had done recently, and you can see how it blotted out. The first command is scratched out, but you can barely see the Yod, Hey, Uah right here through the scratches. Here you see it again, Yod, Hey, Uah. That's the name of Yahuah. And this is blotting out. So, the second, maybe the fourth, here, a little bit of the fifth maybe. They're writing from right to the left like that. And over here, you can see that where I scratched his name on this stone right here. Okay, it's so if you're standing in the front here and looking in the front, this is like the front of the stone. See, it's at a 45-degree angle. You can't really see this. But notice the tree. Here's the famous little tree now. Look at its vine here, its trunk. How it's down inside of these rocks. See the roots all through here? It's going down around these rocks and trying to find dirt to go down and penetrate into. But look how close this thing is to this rock. You see the roots are right here, is right up against the rock. And this is all leaning toward the rock. And it leans that way. The farther up it goes, it just hugs the rock, is what it does. And this was giving us a little bit of shade. Not a whole lot. You can see I'm kind of in the sun. She's in the sun. He's in the shade. So you can see a lot of the graffiti on here that aggravated me when I saw it. And you see the names that I drew lines through as I was highlighting his name. I was only going to put this one line here till I saw these names faintly, and then for some reason I just kept going right crossing them out. There's more graffiti here, a lot on the other side, some here. And so you can see how close this tree is to this rock. I mean, it's touching it right in here, man. It's tight up against it. All right, so there's that light frequency. You can barely see it on there. It's real faint. Now, whether or not that's Yahuah was there the whole time and we were so busy looking for earthly treasure that I didn't notice him, or maybe this is some kind of thing on the screen with her camera on her lens. But most of the time when you see that kind of stuff on the camera lens, it goes away, or it just stays stationary, right? This is obviously vibrating as we speak, especially when my granddaughter hollers Yahuah at the end and raises her hand. That thing goes nuts. I've never seen a reflection on a lens do that. It's like it's a light frequency that's reacting to our voices. So anyway, here's another shot at it. Here you can see, I'll blow this up. See the oil? Look how it blotted out the Hebrew script, kind of filled it in. These are definitely inscribed. They're not scratched like what I did or what this person did here or any of the other graffiti. It's actually indentured. It's inscribed. You can run your fingernails into those letters, some Hebrew letters, and feel the groove. It was done by a tool of sorts. But what a shame, huh? It probably was unintentional. They probably thought they were doing something spiritually by anointing this rock with whatever oil they used, but it really desecrated it. It's kind of a shame they did that. But nevertheless, they did it. Here, I don't know if you can make out his name back here. In real life, you can make his name out, but barely. Yod, Hey, Hey, but the last Hey, with the crossover between the two lines, you can't see that. You can only see the vertical lines. You can't see the horizontal line connecting them. But you can see it. Very, very hard to see it, but you can still see it. Here's another shot at it. Like I said, what I did here And what all these people did, all this graffiti everywhere, is scratches with another rock or a knife or whatever, but it wasn't cut into the stone. The Hebrew script is cut into the stone. There's some depth to it. You can tell it was done with some kind of a sharp tool. Here's another view of it. All right, here's the picture. So here it is. This picture was captured at, I'm looking at it right now, 11:45. It was recorded on my wife's phone, the date and the time, so it would be 11:45 and 14 seconds. Okay? And so what happened was, while I was up on top, about 30 feet away or 30 yards away, it was about 11:45, just about the same time this happened. My metal detector was going nuts. And so we were all engrossed, and me and my grandson in that. And it caught our attention. All our attention was on the metal detector going nuts. And at 11:45, my wife began to hear a sound, and it was Yahuah, Yahuah. He was proclaiming his name to her and my granddaughter. Well, we didn't hear it. Afterwards, my granddaughter said she didn't hear it, but my wife did. She knew something had changed, but yet everything remained the same, and there was this weird sound that sounded rhythmic. It wasn't like a constant blow or anything. There was breaks in it. It was almost like music or something, but it was rhythmic. There was breaks between the breeze, and she knew that. And as she was trying to looking around, and she was trying to figure out what's this sound, all of a sudden the light appears to her and my granddaughter. Now, later on, I asked her, I said, tell me exactly what you guys were doing when this light appeared. She said, well, we had walked up to the covenant stone, and the noise was going on. She couldn't figure out what the noise was. She could hear it, though. They walked up to the covenant stone, and she said they were standing there running their fingers through the Hebrew letters, tracing the letters with their fingernails and tips of their fingers. Her and my granddaughter were both doing that. And my wife said, I was talking to Yahuah as I was running my fingers through these letters. I said, what do you mean? I said, you were praying to him? She goes, no, I was just talking to him. And she was running her fingers up and down, and so was my little granddaughter. She was down there, mimicking her Grammy, right? And so she said at this point, she began to hear a real faint singing. Now, she told me this days later now, that she heard a singing, and it was very faint, but the other sound was overpowering and overtaking the singing, but she could definitely hear the singing. It sounded like a choir, but she couldn't she didn't know the language. It was in a different language. And so here's this faint choir singing in a different language, and she was hearing Yahuah, like that. Then all of a sudden, this light comes on there, and then she said everything changed, but yet it remained the same. And she looked up at the light, and she immediately closed her eyes because it was so bright, and she turned her head, and she grabbed her cell phone and aimed it up where she saw the light at and snapped the picture. So this is the picture. And keep in mind now that this picture was taken at 11:45 a.m., which means it was noon or midday. The sun was directly overhead. It was way up in the sky. It was high in the sky, and it looked small because I had just looked at it maybe 10 minutes after this picture. So I know where the sun was. It was straight over our heads. So this is clocked at 11:45 a.m. And so it can't be the sun. Impossible. All right. It can't be anything on her photo or on her lens, because this is the only picture we have out of a bunch of pictures that I just showed you. You see how clear and crisp her camera is. She has a Galaxy Z Fold 3 5G phone. And it's got a fantastic camera on it. It's not no cheap camera. And amazingly, is this light, you can see it's on the rock. It's not in the sky. It's on the rock. The rock has turned purple. It's a black rock, but here you can see it is definitely not black anymore. It's purple. And as the light is setting on this rock, you can see it overhanging this ridge on this side of the ridge right here, which proves that the light is setting on the rock. Okay, it's not behind the rock, because here it is overhanging the ridge, meaning it's overhanging the front of the rock. All right, and then you have this purple light, and this one here that is very similar to the light frequency that was vibrating when we were reciting the Ten Bar. And so now it goes down. You see how hazy this is and how dull it looks? Well, let me get down to here, and this purple bow is pointing the opposite way as this one, or even this white one here that resembled the light frequency. Now look at this. If we follow this around, here's the bottom of it. It's a little bit here, like a double rainbow almost, an upside down rainbow appearance almost here. There was no water here. This was totally dry. And it circles back around up here and connects here. So what do we have here? A circle. Almost in the shape of an eyeball, but it's a circle. And it's circling his name. So what he has done here is he circled his name here, magnified it, because I didn't write it this big. You'll see the perspective, and I'll show you another picture. You can see the perspective on it, but it's blowed up. It's magnified. And then if you look here, as these bows here come down, and it's all dulled, and this bow would come down, how it's all, the rock's dulled. Here's a bow, and it kicks out. Now you can plainly see that this rock is protected by some kind of a force field. This is a shield of sorts that's coming from that light all the way to the ground and protecting that rock. In other words, these lights are not on the rock. They're out from the rock. They're protruding from the rock. It's like a force field of sorts. And my wife says that she was in it. She said she was between the covenant stone. They were standing right next to the covenant stone because they were running their fingers through the letters, right? That's where they're at. And she said this force shield came down behind her, and she was trapped between the covenant stone and the force field. And the whole time this was going on, the noise continued. Yeah, ooh, ah. Him proclaiming his name to them girls. And another thing I wanted to point out here before we move on from this, and we'll come back to it, is that you can see the force field coming off here in the air, and it's pushing this tree off the rock. And this tree was laying on the rock. These branches were over top of his name, because I wrote this name underneath the bough of the tree. under the branches. Remember, I stood on the rock, my head hit the branches. So I came back down off the rock and then just reached up there from the ground and rode it because I was too high. When I stood on the rock, my head hit the branches. There's no branches on this rock. They've been pushed back away from their stone, man. They're not touching it at all. And they were all over it. Remember that big branch you saw that was hanging over this rock as we were at that far away shot where my wife and grandchildren were sitting? Remember I told you to notice that tree? It's not on the rock anymore. It's been pushed back away from the rock by this force field or shield. And all these leaves on every branch, at least half of these leaves, this one, big one here, this one, all of them, all over the place, have turned white. They're no longer green, but they're white. And you can tell that this tree is not underneath this force field. It's on the outside of it, and it's been pushed away from the rock. And the leaves have turned white. At least half of them have turned white from the light. So there that is. And it's just amazing how he circled his name and magnified it. Later on, kind of embarrassed to tell you this, but later on, as I was moping around because I didn't get to see this, I was hearing in my head, "You're just like all of them." I guess he was meaning the ones that came and wrote their names on the rock. That's what I was guessing he was saying. That's what I'm assuming he was meaning. You're just like them. You came searching for earthly treasure. You didn't seek out the true treasure, which is him. And so it really was heartbreaking to start to understand this. But then he said, but you remembered my name. Nevertheless, you remembered my name. And I didn't understand at the time. I did write it down and post it to NazareneLife.com like days after we got back. I can read that to you. What I wrote when this was all fresh in my mind. But I think, he was speaking of this right here, because at least I didn't write my own name up there. I wrote his name, he said, at least you remembered my name. And then he circled it, magnified it, protected it with this shield, pushed this tree off of it, turned all these leaves are half white, and appeared up here as he sat down upon this rock. And he is standing on this rock because half of this light here is hanging over this ridge right here. The light's hanging over the front of that ridge. So he is standing there or sitting there. All right. We'll get back to this one. Let's move on. Okay, so here's another view of the rock. More graffiti up here. You can see the treacherous the trail is. Here it is. You walk up this almost like little stone steps right here. Up here on the other side of that stump. And I think it goes this way. But it just gets real. It's just real narrow and treacherous as you go down that hill. Going down was a lot more treacherous than coming up. Yeah, there it is. It goes this way. I think they were sitting right here in that picture. Maybe. It's hard to tell sometimes what's going on here, but this is the trail for sure here. And notice this big round stone here. And look at all the flat rocks. So there's some more round ones. But there is a volcano closer to Los Lunas. Okay, here you go. You get a better picture of the round rocks. See the round ones? They were here and here. It kind of looked out of place to me, these big round rocks. Someone suggested perhaps they were seeds from a tree that had become petrified or something when the giants were roaming the earth. Who knows? There is scripture that does say that there were giants and they had 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on each foot that roamed the earth. All right? Yeah, it does. So here's the top of the covenant stone. Now you can see where it's, I'm going to blow it up. See all the jaggedness of it? It's not really smooth here, which kind of suggests that it was broke off somewhere. There's a lot of people that know more a whole lot not about the stuff than I do, that says that this rock appears to have been up high at one time, and somewhere along the lines fell over, and this other rock just kind of fell on top of it and trapped it underneath. And you can definitely see that this is a standalone rock. See there, this whole rock, and this big one's just like fell on it, and it's got it trapped there at a 45-degree angle. This sets, the covenant stone sets at a 45-degree angle. Okay, so this is the one of the 3 pictures proving the timeline. Now, Kason and I, we snuck over here. I told you to scare the girls. Well, this is it. When she walked out and took a picture of us, this is what she got. And she was like over here. You could see that she had to be over here to the left of this stone to take this picture. So she walked out over here because you had to be careful where you're going because of all the rocks laying everywhere. See down here, you can see all these big giant rocks just laying all over the place. And so you had to be real careful of every step you took, where you could easily trip backwards over a rock or fall or anything, get hurt, you know. But this, we're up here, and notice my grandson has that digger that he dug that little bit of dirt out with. Now he's holding that thing up like a sword, and look at the light frequency that connected to the tip of that thing when he's holding it up. This wasn't up in the sky. That sky was solid blue, man, and the sun was straight overhead. I mean, pinpoint straight up. How do I know? Because this picture's clocked in at 12 o'clock sharp. This is 12 o'clock p.m. sharp. So the light that we just looked at was 11:45. We were digging that treasure. We came back over here. Metal detector went nuts. When we finally worked our way back over here, it was 12 o'clock straight up noon on the dot. And right here you can see something that looks like tablets, stone tablets, 4 of them stacked right here against each other and one laying here diagonally. Looks like 5 stone tablets laying right here. This big giant rock looks like it had fallen off was up here somewhere and fell over. And this thing here must have been on top of it up here somewhere, and it fell down. And as this fell down, it trapped it underneath there at a 45-degree angle. It looks like it broke off up here somehow. If it was laying on that ledge there and then it fell, kind of really amazing that it fell with right side up, even though it's at a 45-degree angle. It's pretty amazing in itself. Then over above these rocks, back over in this way somewhere, we did see a rock that looked like a chair or a throne, a large throne with a perfect flat seat and back on it and an L shape. Perfect. I mean, you didn't have to use your imagination at all to see that looked like a throne. That's what it really looked like. Looked like a stone throne. It was tipped over on its side up against another rock. I didn't get a picture of it, but I will. Okay. This is the third picture in the timeline of the event of the light. So the light, 11:45. Okay, me and my grandson standing on the top of the rock, 12 o'clock sharp. We backed off of that rock after she took them pictures, and we came around the side, climbed down, come around the tree. See the tree? It's laying on the stone. Okay, all these branches, actually quite a bit thicker than it really looks. And so we walked around. We couldn't come through here, obviously, so we walked around the tree, and now I'm standing here next to the coven stone, and he's standing up here on these rocks, still playing, pretending that he's a knight in shining armor or whatever he's doing there. And I have the Equinox 800 metal detector still strapped to my arm here. And you can see we just came down because I still have the metal detector strapped to my arm as we climbed down. We saw lizards and stuff over in here. And now I'm in front of the tree by the coven stone, still holding the witness of the metal detector that went absolutely crazy. And ever since it did that, I can't get it to beep now at all. No matter what I do, it ain't doing no beeping whatsoever, not even a tiny beep. And so the thing here that I want you to see is that when we went up the other side, we got up there in about 15 seconds. As we come down, had to climb over all those rocks and around all those rocks over there. It took us 2 minutes to come down. And this is 12:02. This picture here is clocked at stamped at 12:02. And here we are. Okay, so look very closely here, and you can see I still have this metal detector strapped on my arm, okay, because we had just come down. It's 12:02. You can see the leaves on the tree. As I back off, you can see that they're really pressed up against the tree, especially on the other side of this ridge. There's a bunch of branches over there. Here's the name of Yahuah to put it all into perspective now. Here's his name. Okay, that I scratched in there when I first come down. Here's more leaves overtaking the front of this tree and up against this tree. Okay, all along this side of this rock, there's being touched by branches. And from the front, directly onto it and around the back of that ridge is branches and leaves. You see them? And none of them are white. And right here's the name. See how small it is? It's pretty small. And I mean, I did make it thick, as I was mad, but I didn't write it like 3 feet long. It's probably 10 inches long. It's right there. See, you can barely see it. Okay, so if you're, and it's right here's where I'm at. So I was up here, and I wrote that. I was like right there in front of this tree trunk, kind of like. I wasn't down here because I couldn't reach it from where I'm standing now. I was more over in there. But notice here that how small, and it's underneath the boughs of this tree. All right. And it's not front and center. Okay, so here's the covenant stone. Right up in here's that ridge, probably right up in here somewhere. Which means if you're standing, you see all the rocks, there's nowhere to stand here, really. Very small areas to stand in. Okay, so if she was standing right here in front of this stone, when she reached her arm upwards into this direction, because the light was here off the picture, man. And she was right in front of the stone, remember? Because her and the little one was running their fingers inside the depths of the script. And so she had to just hold her arm straight up, flush with the rock, basically, because she was right up against it almost, and snap the picture. So how, at that position, I don't think you could even see this. She's like over here taking this picture of us as we come down. Now, I don't know where they were at, but by the way, this looks like a menorah right here on this stone. You see this stone right here? Kind of looks like a menorah on there. Somebody had pointed that out. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is, in the picture with the light, his name that circled and was magnified was front and center. So that means she would have had to stand just about where my grandson is to be able to take a picture at this angle to make this his name front and center in the photo. But she wasn't. She was over here next to right up against the covenant stone, running her fingers in the grooves of the script, with my granddaughter doing the same thing. So I don't even think they could have seen this when they were standing over here. I really don't, because it's actually around the corner on the side underneath the tree. You can see it better in this picture than you can most. Now, if I blow it up, you can see what I'm talking about. So here's the top of the stone, and this goes like that at an angle, and here's the back edge. This is kind of like the front edge. You can't really see that if you're standing here. If you can, it just would be barely, because I didn't see these names until I walked around over here. And then I could see more names. And then when I wrote his name, then I could see these names real faint under here where I started drawing lines through. So I know it'd be, maybe you could see it standing here, but it would be a hard see, you know. And you can see it's underneath the tree. Look at the tree. You can tell this tree is all over this rock. It's all over it. Right? It's pretty easy to see that, right? Now look at this one again. The tree's off the rock. It's pushed back away from the rock. And look at the name. It was under the tree branches. Now it's not. It's front and center on this photograph, okay, and magnified about 3 times, 4 times, and the tree branches are pushed back off of it by this force shield. See, here's the light. Here was the point. You couldn't even see it in the picture. You know, it was coming down. The picture was coming down kind of like this, and this was way over here and small, and all the tree branches were all over that rock. See what I'm saying? Something happened. There you go. See what I'm saying now? So she wasn't standing over here. She would have had to been standing where he's at to get that angle. And those branches would have been all in that picture. But they're not. They're pushed off. And you can just see this little bit of branch right here. And all of them have turned white. And the rest of that tree, it pushed away from it. It's not touching it anywhere. And you can see it's all over the rock here. That's why I say that that's a famous tree right there. There's another shot of it. You can't miss it. Look at it. I'll give it to you. Blow it up. Look at how the branches are all over that tree, all over that rock. And the name's up underneath. It's on the right flat spot underneath all these branches. I hit my head on these branches when I stood up on that rock. I had to come back down to write that. See what I'm saying? It's amazing, man. Here's another video. I'm going to show you this because I want you to see the gate. Yeah, this is where right there's the trail. We walked along the outside of this barbed wire fence, and then we had to snake through this gate right here to get back. That's on the way back. This is probably a mile from the covenant stone, I'd say. At least 3/4 of a mile for sure. Here's that hole in the rock I was telling you about. Now this was on the way back. This is right over here. Over here is that bed frame with all the glass. And I saw this. You might be some. You can see some glass right here. See a little bit of glass down there. So I looked over and I saw this hole, and I could see the bedding and the branches, the twigs, even all these twigs laying down here. And I thought, look at that hole. So we walked over and looked in there, and we just kind of peeked up in there, and you could see that this hole goes up in there to the left, and it looks like it goes up in here in about the middle of this stone. But you can't see that far, obviously. But it goes up in there. You can't see the end anywhere. So I didn't want to get real close because I was scared something would poke its head down out of here and bite me in the face or something, So, I mean, there's badgers out here, and I don't want to mess around with a badger or a coyote. So as we were looking at this, the Revelation 6 about the people hiding in the mountains and in the caves and the holes in the rock in the mountains and wanting the mountains to fall down on them. That came to my mind real strong, and it kind of spooked me. I turned around and said, "Hey, this is creepy, man. Let's get out of here." And you can imagine that verse about the day of Yahuah is a kind of a creepy verse anyway, about them hiding in them stone rocks and wanting them to fall on them and stuff. Say, hey, this is creepy. Let's get out of here. So we turned around and took off. Got out of here. So here's the big footprint that we saw about 75 yards from our vehicle. This is a creek bed over here. What happened was the water went under the road and kind of washed out. This underneath here was kind of a small washout of the road, but it hadn't collapsed. But underneath it, it was a kind of a washout. And whoever made this print, when they stepped down here, it collapsed into the washout to that little cavern area and made this print. So you can see that it's about 1/2 inch down. The heel here is really not collapsed, but it's such a perfect heel, you couldn't have made this up. So the washout was just mostly to here. And you can see about 1/2 inch down, and down into the road from the washout. When the weight of this, whoever made this, collapsed the road down into this washout and made this print. The big toe is perfect. The heel is perfect. This thing has 6 toes on it. And when you see this in real life, this area right in here was kind of bowed, like an arch made it and whatever. But I would guesstimate this to be 16 inches long from toe to heel and 6 inches wide, maybe even a little wider up in here. But it was definitely a large print. Here, the heel comes clear back here. This is the heel. Yeah, it looked a lot bigger when you saw it in life too, you know what I mean? But it was a unanimous decision. Four witnesses voted, and we all came up with it was a footprint that resembled a human's footprint, and it could be nothing else. And it was a unanimous decision. Okay, so yeah. Amazing, about 16 inches. This is where Yahuah had told me that that some people would have what he called the Bigfoot syndrome, where if they don't see it, they don't believe it. There can be 10,000 people that says they saw it, credible witnesses, and the person still will not believe the 10,000 because they're so self-absorbed and narcissist in their behavior that they can't see. Their eyes are blinded because of their self-centeredness, and it's all centered on themselves. If I didn't see it, the 10,000 are liars. Okay, and so he called that the Bigfoot syndrome. Now I don't know what made this print. That's up to y'all to decide, but I have a few ideas. It could have been a six-toed giant, as scripture describes. Could have been a huge man about the size of Shaq O'Neal or Will Chamberlain or something. Pretty good sized foot there. Or could have been Bigfoot. Depends if you've seen him or not. If you haven't seen him, you'll probably say, no, Bigfoot don't exist. If you have seen him, you'll probably say, I've seen it, man. I know it's Bigfoot print. Whatever. That's up to y'all. I'm just showing you what we saw and what the spiritual application of it is that I got from Yahuah. And so this is where he told me, as I was taking this thing in, that you will see me, but only as looking through a mirror or looking into a mirror. And I didn't know what he was talking about, really. Until days later, then I understood. Okay. So this was real. We didn't do this. I only got a 10.5-inch foot. Grandkids got little tiny feet, and my wife's foot's smaller than mine, so none of us did this. Besides, I don't know if we would have had the weight to collapse it down in there like that. So you can see here in this photo, if I blow it up, you can see how it's collapsed down into the washout. Almost, look at that, because it's so hard and stiff, it maintained its integrity there, except for the toes. So when the toes went down farther in because the washout was real bad right through here. So when he took his foot out, stepped down and it felt the collapse, he must have took his foot out backwards and preserved the toes. And this kept going. I didn't see any more prints anywhere, just this one. But you can definitely see that it's collapsed down in there about at least a 1/2 inch, maybe an inch in some spots, like over in here. The toes are definitely went down in there a couple inches. I see it. I looked around, I didn't see prints, no print anywhere else, just there. And then we got back to the hotel. We went swimming. We did all that. The battery was dead on our phones. We had to wait some hours for that before we could even see any of these pictures. And then, of course, it had become Yom Shabbat because Yom Shabbat comes in the evening, from evening to evening. The next day, we're relaxing in our room, enjoying Yahuah's rest day. And getting close to evening now, my granddaughter points out the rainbows, which I didn't understand what these meant either. But you can see from end to end on this one, and here's the double. I could see end to end on the double too, the one above it, just as easy. And now we're back to there. Okay, so again, you can see that the light here is coming across this ridge and showing you that this light is standing or setting on this ridge. Okay? That's amazing. Just amazing. All right. So there's definitely some kind of a force field coming out and hitting this pushing this tree off this rock, as y'all just saw, was on it, right on it. It was all over that rock. But all these leaves, look at them, how white they are. They've turned white, and the white isn't distorted or smeared or anything. They have turned solid white, just like the green leaves are. They're solid green, and these are solid white. There's no distortion to them at all other than their color change. All right. All right. So now I would like to, at this time, show you something else that was kind of strange that happened just recently. If I can, let me see if I can do it. All right, I have to stop screen and then try to share again. If I can get this to work, I'll show it to you. If not, we'll go on. All right, so this would be, no. 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 That's 2, so it must be 4. Yeah. Okay, let me see now if I can make this work. All right. So what this is, and I haven't showed this to anybody except Lou. It's me and Lou's talked about it. I think a couple of you have seen this actually. Now, this is an interview Lou did with me on July 18th. And we were speaking, and at this point on the timeline there, we were talking about the light frequency. And all of a sudden, this menorah comes up on the screen, lasts about 17 seconds, and disappears. This happens right at the 33-minute mark. Okay? And there's 2 things I need to point out here. One, Lou had wiped out the last video he used this menorah in and began doing this interview. And so by all rights, this menorah that fades in and fades out should have been wiped out as well. It shouldn't have showed up in this video. And I confirmed this with Lou. But he said, yeah, I recognize the menorah. I don't know how that got in here, but that was something I did use back a few videos back. And I said, yeah, but did you realize that the topic of conversation was, when this menorah faded in, was we were talking about light frequency? And he goes, yeah, and the menorah is the light of the world. And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of a coincidence, right? So then yesterday, the more I was thinking about this, the more I realized, I was like, wait a minute now. Lou had mentioned, when your wife was hearing the breathing and Yahuah was proclaiming his name to her, then he appeared to her. It's kind of like what happened to Moshe when he asked Yahuah to show him his goodness. And he said, yeah, I'll put you in the cliff of a side of a mountain. And as I walk by, I'll proclaim my name to you so that you know it was him. And then I will remove my hand and let you see my backside, because if you see my face, nobody's ever seen my face, you'll die. In his natural form, which is what? Light. He's a Ruach dwelling in unapproachable light. That's his natural form. And so, interestingly, it's at 33 minutes, and that story of Moshe that Lou shared with me just the day before, I think it was, is in Exodus 33. And this happens at the 33rd minute of the time frame, which was another huge coincidence as far as I'm concerned. But the story is in Exodus 33, 17. It says, And Yahuah said to Moses, even this word you have spoken, I shall do. For you have found favor in my eyes, and I know you by name. Then he said, please show me your esteem. And he said, I shall cause all my goodness to pass before you, and I shall proclaim the name of Yahuah before you. And so there you go. Well, I'll read the rest of it. And I shall favor him who I favor, and I shall have compassion on him who I have compassion. I mean, Yahuah can choose anybody he wants to do anything with them. He's not restricted at all. No matter how much you want to restrict him, put him in a box and control him and define him, you can't do it. I shall favor him who I favor, and I shall have compassion on him who I have compassion. But he said, you are unable to see my face, for no man does see me and live. See, there is a place with me, and I shall stand on the rock, and it shall be while my esteem passes by, that I shall put you in the cleft of the rock and cover you with my hand while I pass. Then I shall take away my hand, and you shall see my back, but my face shall not be seen. Very interesting, right? Why did he proclaim his name to Moses when he walked past? So that Moses would know that he was seeing Yahuah and no one else but Yahuah. That's why he proclaimed his name to him as he walked past and removed his hand and let him see his backside. This is kind of similar to what happened to my wife and granddaughter. He was proclaiming his name, and then he appeared to them as a light. Very similar to the story we find in Acts, under the witness and testimony of Paul, when the light appeared to him and blinded him. So anyway, I thought that was amazing that this happened at the 33-minute mark. And this story is in Exodus 33. And Lou wiped this off, and it shouldn't have been there to begin with. Okay, so let's just watch that clip real quick.
The arch, the white rainbow's arch, is reacting to our words, and it's going up and down like this. So the light frequency, I don't want to get into all that, but it's a fantastic study. If you've never studied frequencies, you should. But the light frequency is a very high frequency. And so Yahuah being light would have a frequency that he lives in, and so do we, and so do diseases. And they're experimenting with frequencies to try to heal people now, because certain diseases can't live outside of
33-minute mark,
a certain frequency. Anyway, this frequency thing is reacting to what we're doing. Yeah, words of life. It was an amazing thing to see. And so he was there the whole time. That's what was amazing. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Okay, so there it is. There's the little clip. And amazingly, that ends at 33:17, which is where Moshe is asking to see him. That's another kind of a mind-blowing thing. Okay, so, all right, let me stop screen now, and I want to show y'all something else. This is kind of an amazing thing, too. I haven't wrapped my mind about it. I already showed it to you, but I'm going to show it to you live on this, because I know you didn't catch it. At least most of you probably did not. So I'll just try to share screen again and see if I can get it on here. Yeah, here it is. Okay, there we go. All right, so here's the Bigfoot thing. Hang on a minute. I'm going to show you this clip now. What happens is we're talking about this picture that I've just shared with all of you. And here's the light. Here's his name is circled. Here's the magnification of his name. It's magnified. And here all the branches have been thinned out and pushed back off the rock. I don't see a leaf touching this rock. And there was a lot of leaves touching this rock. Looks like they've all been pushed back out of the way. Look at this picture here on the right. You can see that the leaves are touching. Here in the middle one, you can see they've all been pushed back. There's not a leaf touching this rock. Okay, 11:45, the light. Case and I standing up on top of the rock with this light frequency touching the tip of his pretend sword. 12 o'clock straight up noon. 12:02, we're back down and we'll come around the rock and we're standing there. 12:02, there's 17 minutes in this timeline of these three pictures. But look at this one. Okay, notice the leaves are pushed back and some of them have, half of them or so have turned white. The name is magnified, circled, and here's the lights sitting or standing on top of this ridge, and a little bit of the lights hanging over this side, the front side of the ridge, showing us that this light is actually touching this rock. Okay? All right, so me and Lou were doing a second video here because people had said that they couldn't quite see. Some of the pictures were too small, so we decided to do another shorter clip and blow the pictures up where they could be seen better. All right, so we go through this second interview, and then we get over here about a minute or 50 minutes and 34 seconds into this video, and we're talking about Bigfoot here. And we keep going, and we're talking about Bigfoot here, and then we get right here. I want to show you something. Now, this is what I'm going to reveal to you right now before you see this. Lou posted this. We did this the evening before. Lou posted this second video. He said about 5 o'clock in the morning. All right. And then my wife and I, we got up and we started. I said, hey, Lou posted that second video. You want to watch it? She said, yeah, let's go watch it. So we were watching it. After this, we were talking about this print here. We put the picture back on there. That same picture that we were just looking at, that we were just talking about just a few seconds ago. And as we were watching it, my wife and I, we saw the picture come to life. The light started breathing. It started moving around like it was breathing or something. I looked at her and said, is that light moving? And so Nora looked at it, I said, man, it is. It's moving. And that light got bigger and moved over in front of the ridge of that rock and froze. Lou saw the same thing. He said that he also saw the tree branches push back slightly a little bit more. And what I noticed after watching this for about 10 times, I noticed that his name is even more magnified than it was. It's like everything moved forward or got bigger or something. The light came across the ridge. You can no longer see the ridge. His name is more magnified. It became bigger, and the branches are pushed back a little bit more. And you got about 75% of the leaves are now white. A lot more of the leaves turned white. So I'm going to show you that little clip right now. Here it is.
If we have a pure heart, someone has a pure heart, then Yahuah sends them belief. Without Yahuah, we can do nothing. It's up to him whether you believe or not.
Yeah.
It's not up to us. We can't do nothing without Yahuah.
Yeah. Putting all this in context, though, it's just overwhelming it can't be an accident. This is all in a short period of time that you were there, and you just happen to randomly find all these things. It's just amazing.
It's as the days go on.
Now here it is. So it's not moving anymore, but it's fixed. And when it fixed, look at this. What has happened here? The name is larger. It magnified more, a little bit more. It's still circled. The branches are pushed back slightly even farther, but look how many of them has turned white. I mean, like 75% of them are white now. And look at the light. It has moved across this ridge. It is now hanging way over this ridge, proving that this light is standing or sitting on this ridge. It's not in the sky. It's moved forward in front of the ridge, almost 50% now on the other side of this ridge, in the front of this ridge. I saw this happen with my own eyes, folks. I saw it move, come to life and move. And here's what it looks like now. You can see it's totally different than what it started out to be in this photo. Look, you can see almost all the ridge. It's only coming off of there maybe what? 10, maybe 15%, 20 at the most. You know, the name's just slightly smaller. The leaves aren't, there's white leaves here, about 50% white leaves, you know, but over here on this one now, you got a lot of white leaves. The name has been magnified at least a little bit more, 10% more. And this light has crossed over in front of this ridge nearly 50% of what it began at when we first started recording this video. That's amazing. Now, I'd say this is a miracle. The whole thing, really. The whole journey from beginning to end is a miracle. If you do not believe these words of mine, or you think I photoshopped this or did some trickery on this or Lou did, I'm sorry, but you're wrong. I never touched any of this. This is exactly how it was extracted from her phone. The story I told you is true, exactly the way it happened. And if you don't believe it, you think it's hogwash, then all I can say is that's okay. It's okay. I don't mind that you think I'm a liar, because there's several reasons I don't. One is you can't believe if Yahuah doesn't send you the gift of belief. So pray that he sends you the gift of belief so you can believe the Ruach HaKodesh when he shows you these things. Even the people in Yahush's time, saw all those miracles take place, all those signs, all those wonders, even the raising of the dead. And they still didn't believe. And they saw it with their own eyeballs. Why? Because Yahuah did not give them the gift of belief. Just those who he sent the gift of belief to believed in who he was and who he said he was, the only one that can forgive sins, Yahuah. That's who he was saying he was. It's who Paul saw on the road to Damascus. The other reason is Yahusha made clear to me today. He said, Mark, he said, don't feel too bad. It's not you who they're rejecting. It's me. They're rejecting me. And so that made me snap out of my funk. And I said, well, I see your point. It's you they reject, not me. And it's a very interesting thing that we find written actually, and it speaks. It's in Samuel, 1 Samuel. He talks to Samuel about that. The Israelites were not wanting to be ruled by Yahuah anymore. They didn't want to be ruled by Samuel's son anymore because he wasn't like Samuel. So they asked for another king to rule over them. And when Samuel took it to Yahuah, Yahuah said, give them what they asked for. And so he said, but warn them. And so Samuel went back and he warned them. If you do this, and Yahuah gives you a human king, a man, a human idol to worship, then he's going to be a taker and not a giver, and you're going to pay for it dearly. And they still said, no, send us a man, send us a king like the nations have. And so Yahuah did. And they've been paying for it ever since. Big time. Okay, so that's about that. I just wanted y'all to see that. I mean, I'm as blown away by it as any of you probably are. I have no idea how that happened or why that happened, but I know that it did. Yeah, that's true. The light is even brighter than it was as well. I mean, I think it's because it's been magnified. Everything's magnified. And we saw it happen with our own eyes. That's what's amazing about it. This ain't something that we noticed later on. We watched it live as we were watching the video that Lou posted the next morning. He posted at 5. We were watching it about 10 probably. And we saw it happen. Oh, well. Just amazing stuff, really, So that's about it as far as showing you all those pictures and everything. And I hope that you all were able to get a good view of all that. And I just want you all to know that this is not for just me or my wife or my granddaughter. This is for everybody. Okay. And the message, before I say this, I just want to let you know that later on, when we were back home, things settled down just a bit. I had started speaking with my granddaughter, and because I never thought to ask her, and it's kind of weird, that I didn't talk to all the witnesses that we had about this. I'll remind you that I did not say it. I'm your example of not what to do. Don't search for earthly treasure. Search for the real treasure. Yahuah, seek him out with all your might. Salvation and deliverance is a really important thing to be doing. Is just seeking out your deliverance. It's not something to be taken lightly or placing in the hands of someone else to do for you. Ain't going to happen that way. But I said to her, hey, man, I said, remember when you were there with Grandma and that light came up on the rock? She said, yeah. I said, did you see it? I didn't even think to ask the child if she saw it. And she said, yes, I saw it. I said, well, what did it look like? She goes, I thought it was the sun. And I said, really? I said, what happened when you thought it was the sun? What happened? She goes, I closed my eyes. I said, but before you closed your eyes, did you see it? She goes, yes, I saw it and it hurt my eyes. And I closed my eyes. And I said, did you hear the noise? Any type of weird noise? She goes, no, I didn't hear any noise. And I said, well, I'm going to ask you one more question, okay? And you can go back to playing whatever you're doing. She goes, okay. And I said, since you saw the light, I said, was the light on top of the rock sitting on the rock, touching the rock, or was it off in the sky, away from the rock? And she said, oh, no, Paul, it was on the rock. I said, so the light was on the rock? She goes, oh, yes, it was on the rock. And then she skipped off. Well, later on, I'd asked her, no, she came up to me. I was working on my book. She walked up to me. She says, hey, Paul. I said, yeah. She goes, remember when we were talking about that light? And I said, yeah. She goes, I forgot to tell you that it hurt my eyes. I said, it hurt your eyes? She said, yeah. And she said, they still kind of hurt a little bit. I said, really? She goes, yeah, especially when I blink or if I close my eyes real tight. She said, they hurt. They still hurt. I just didn't know what to say. I was kind of stunned, that she just come out of nowhere and said that. And then I looked at her eyes, let me see, looking around and seeing nothing. So a few days later, or whatever it was, she finally said they were feeling better, But anyway, I thought that was amazing for a child to come up and just say that out of the sky blue. All right, so the message here, there is an obvious message to this spiritual journey here, folks, and that message is twofold in part. And it is that we should all stop doing what I was doing. I'm the example of that. Do not be seeking out things of this world that are temporal. The treasures of this world will only lead us to darkness and death, and is temporal. And it's going to be destroyed by fire anyway. It's got an appointed time where it's going to be destroyed by fire. So don't seek that out, but seek out the face of Yahuah. Seek out proof and search for the existence of Yahuah. And maybe you'll find him. You'll find the true treasure. And do it while you still can. Search him out while you still can. And the second part of this twofold message is that this rainbow that my granddaughter told me was a very important one, and I didn't want to believe her, but I did go look at it. Later on, it was revealed to me after we have come back home that this rainbow is a sign that we're entering the days of Noah. And Yahuah wants us all to know that the end of the latter days is coming upon us rapidly. And the days of Noah are here, and they're going to progress rapidly. So the end of the latter days is upon us. So seek out Yahuah while you can, while he can still be found. And do it with all urgency. Amen. So that's the message of it all. I'm going to open this up in case anybody wants to come in by any chance, has any questions you'd like to ask about any of this, and I'll do my best to answer them. Yeah, his name is the Rock, which is amazing. Yeah, the name of Yahuah is a strong tower, and the righteous run into it and are safe. But yeah, the name, the Rock is his name, Yahuah. There's the link. Anybody wants to come in to have any questions? More welcome to come in and ask. I won't be offended. If you reject this or me, you're not really rejecting me. You may think you are, but you're not. You're rejecting Yahuah. And this is what he's made clear to me. So I'm not going to be offended no matter what you say. So if you come in, you got some questions, come on. Come in and share them with the body. We're all anxious to hear your opinion on any of this. This probably will be the last video that I present about this out there to the beloved. Unless, like I said, Lou White wants to interview me, that's fine. I'll do that anytime he wants to. But other than that, I'm going to be working on this book. Yahuah wants me to write about this. And then we're going to be trying to take this out there to the world and get maximum exposure to it. I think it's something everybody needs to see, and they can decide for themselves. Ironically, I think more people are interested in seeing the big footprint, and they are the marvelous light. Yeah, sometimes I just don't know what to do, man. You know, with how people treat Yahuah just blows my mind. All right, well, we're waiting for somebody to perhaps get the courage to come in and ask questions. Let's go over a few more scriptural verses like I promised we would do. And then we'll see what happens. All right, so Psalms 119, verse 105. I'm in the BYNV. It says, your word is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path. Very interesting. Now, remember the shield? I told you that shield that was protruding off the rock and covering my wife and my granddaughter and the entire covenant stone and pushing the tree back. This has some kind of relevance in scripture that kind of, when I was kind of looking for things in scripture to kind of like go along with what we saw, you know, it took me to Proverbs 30 and Proverbs 35, verse 5. Every word of Yahuah is tried. He is a shield to those taking refuge in him. Did you catch it? He is a shield to those taking refuge in him. Do not add to his words lest he reprove you and you be found a liar. So apparently, my wife and granddaughter must have been taking refuge in him that day. They threw a shield over them of protection, man. Literally. With his marvelous light. It protruded from his light and covered them in that stone, protected them. Y'all can say what you want, but I presented you with 4 witnesses. The first witness was the picture itself of his marvelous light. It's obvious what's on the picture. That's the first witness. He appeared to me, but as in a mirror. And I accept that. But he appeared to my wife and my granddaughter live, up front and personal, and put a shield over them. And she heard a choir singing. She heard him proclaiming his name. Yahuah. And she saw the light. And so did my granddaughter. As they were playing, putting their fingers in the Hebrew script and talking to him. Maybe we ought to try to do that. Stick our fingers in the word and try talking to Yahuah. Huh? Maybe we ought to do that. Let's take a look at John chapter 1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with Elohim, and the Word was Elohim. He was in the beginning with Elohim. All came to be through him, and without him not even one came to be that came to be. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. And the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. There was a man sent from Elohim whose name was Yahuah. This one came for a witness, to bear witness of the light, that all might believe through him. He was not that light, but that he might bear witness of that light. He was the true light, which enlightens every man coming into the world. He was in the world, and the world came to be through him, and the world did not know him. He came to his own, and his own did not receive him. He came to his own, and his own did not receive him. But as many as received him, to them he gave the authority to become children of Elohim, to those believing in his name, who were born not of blood, nor of the desire of flesh, nor of the desire of man, but of Elohim. Wow. Wow. Okay, so the four witnesses. The picture, he circled his name, Yahuah, and he proclaimed his name to my wife and my granddaughter. Yahuah. I heard it myself on her video recording on her cell phone. I can hear it. I knew what it was immediately because I've heard it many times. I heard it twice, then it shut off. So he circled his name, he proclaimed his name, and then he appeared to them as a bright light, like he did Paul. Okay? Do we have any reason to doubt this? The second witness is my wife, as I've shared with you her testimony. The third witness is my granddaughter, as I shared with you her testimony. The fourth witness is my metal detector that went off like I struck Fort Knox. When he appeared to them, that detector was screaming, maximum capacity, and wouldn't stop. There's your four witnesses. Let's look at John 8, verse 12. Therefore Yahuah spoke to them again, saying, I am the light of the world. He who follows me shall by no means walk in darkness, but possess the light of life. The light of life. Life is in the light. It's amazing, isn't it? Yes, it is. It's really amazing. It's a miracle. It's a modern day miracle. That's what I say it is. I don't think it's weird, strange, freaky, or anything. I think it's a miracle. And Yahuah is proclaiming himself, his name to us, confirming that Yahuah is his name. He circled it, magnified it, and then proclaimed it as he appeared to them as a light. He's confirming his name is Yahuah. Are we hearing the message? Or do we have eyes to see with and ears to hear with? Or do we have the Bigfoot syndrome? Are we that self-centered, such a narcissist, that we don't believe his witnesses because we didn't see it? Let's go John 12:35. Yahushua therefore said to them, yet a little while the light is with you. Walk while you have the light, lest darkness overtake you, and he who walks in darkness does not know where he is going. While you have the light, believe in the light, so that you become sons of light. These words Yahushua spoke, and went off and was hidden from them. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Yes, folks, search out the light while you still can, while he is still able to be found. Search out the light, which is the life of men. Please take this seriously, because this is a serious matter. All those who remain in darkness will be thrown into the lake of fire, where weeping and gnashing of the teeth is. Don't want to go there. There will be weeping and gnashing of the teeth, folks, for those who remained in darkness. Luke 9, verse 29. And it came to be, as he prayed, the appearance of his face changed, and his garment dazzling white. Dazzling white. So I would say that that's a light. Sounds like to me. Acts 9, eyewitness here, Shaul of Tarsus, better known as Paul, saw the light on the road to Damascus, and suddenly a light flashed around him from the heaven. Paul witnesses to the light 3 times in the books of Acts, actually. Same occurrence, but he witnesses, gives testimony 3 times in the book of Acts about it. Here, Acts 22, verse 6. And it came to be, as I was journeying, this is Paul talking, as I was journeying and coming near Damascus about noon. About noon? This is when he manifested himself to my wife and my granddaughter. Near noon, about noon. We know it was 11:45 exactly, don't we? Because it was recorded or stamped on the photo. So the time's right. About noon. That's what I said. When I was off one time, took my hat, wiped my head, and looked up there at the sun, and I saw it straight overhead, and it was real high in the sky, and it was real small. I said, man, it's got to be getting about noon. I put my hat back on. I knew it was almost noon, but with the positioning of the sun. About noon, so apparently Paul knew that when it was getting close to noon here, abruptly, a great light shone around me out of the sky, and I fell to the ground and heard a voice saying to me, Shaul, Shaul, why do you persecute me? Go down to 9. And those who were with me indeed saw the light and were afraid, but they did not hear his voice speaking to me. Ah, wow. Same kind of occurrence, isn't it? My wife saw the light. She heard the sound. My granddaughter saw the light, but she didn't hear the sound. That's almost exact occurrence. And it was all at near noon, about noon. Wow. What a comparison that is. Let's look over to Acts, this third testimony of Paul here of the same occurrence. It's in Acts 26, verse 12. While thus engaged, I was traveling to Damascus with authority and commission from the chief priests. At midday, what's midday? 12 o'clock noon. Straight up noon, that's midday. At midday, same exact time my wife and my granddaughter saw the light. So did Paul at the same time. At midday, along the highway, sovereign, the highway sovereign, I saw a light from heaven brighter than the sun shining around me and those who journeyed with me, and we had fallen to the ground. And I heard a voice speaking to me and saying in the Hebrew language, speaking Hebrew. He saw a great light, bright as the sun, at noon, at midday, speaking in the Hebrew language. Yahuah, Yahuah. Is that not Hebrew language? So this also is a unbelievable, amazing comparison to what they realized. Wow. Wow and wow again. Let's go to 1 Peter. 1 Peter 2:7. 1 Peter 2:7. This preciousness then is for you who believe. But to those who are disobedient, the stone which the builders rejected has become the chief cornerstone. Stone? And a stone of stumbling, and a rock that makes for falling, who stumble because they are disobedient to the word, to which they also were appointed. They're stumbling because they're disobedient to the word. Is this why they have no belief? It could be. It's not their fault. They can't believe if Yahuah doesn't give them belief to believe with. Yahuah is everything. But you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a set-apart nation, a people for a possession, that you should proclaim the praises of him who called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. Into his marvelous light. Are we looking for anything else but light when we seek his face? I would hope not. Who once were not a people, but now the people of Elohim, who had not obtained compassion, but now obtained compassion. Hallelujah. Thank you, Yahuah. Does anybody doubt that the 10 Debarim, the 10 words, the 10 commandments are extremely important at this point? Is there any doubt in anybody's mind that we should be obeying them? We should be saying them when we rise up from the bed. When we lay down to go to sleep, we should be the last thing we say is the 10 Debarim. We should be saying them as we walk our way to work, when we walk home, when we walk in the market. We should have them everywhere in our life, written on our doorposts and on our gates, teaching them to our children. They're extremely important. Obedience is huge. If you break the love commands, you're breaking your marriage vows to your husband. All right, Matthew 17, verse 1. And after 6 Yamim, Yahuah took Kepha and Yakub and Yahuchanan his brother and brought them up on a high mountain by themselves. And he was transformed before them, and his face shone like the sun, and his garments became as white as the light. If his face is shining bright as the sun, and his garments are bright as that light, are we going to be able to look at him and identify a form? No. We're going to be closing our eyes and turning our head like my wife did and my granddaughter did. Or we're going to continue to look at it and go blind like Brother Paul did on the road to Damascus. It's your choice. But here his face shone like the sun, and his garments became as white as the light. His face had shone like the sun. As my granddaughter described this light just that way. In her little mind, she said, I thought it was the sun. So I closed my eyes. And we know it wasn't the sun. It's 11:45 a.m. The sun was midday, near noon. And I can confirm it by several different witnesses. One, the imprint on the photos on my wife's phone tells us the exact time the photo was taken. And I myself looked up at the sun and saw that it was straight overhead, and I knew it was near noon. And we were up on that rock. Okay, let's look at Mark 9, verse 2. And after 6 Yamim, Yahushua took Ephah and Yakub and Yehuchanan and led them on a high mountain alone by themselves, and he was transformed before them. And his garments became shining, exceedingly white, like snow, such as no launderer on earth is able to whiten it. So this would be extremely white. Let's get a look at it again, see if it fits that description. Let's get a look at that. I just want to see if that fits that description. So here it is. See this? This is the one that grew, moved right in front of my eyeballs and moved, magnified and moved forward onto this rock where we can see without a shadow of a doubt here now that this light is touching this rock. It's not over here in the sky somewhere. All these leaves have, almost all of them have turned white now, pushed back farther. The name has magnified slightly, but I want you to stare at this light. Everybody stare at that light right now and tell me why yours. Keep staring at it now. Don't quit staring. Stare right at that light. Every single person on here is watching this. Look at it closely, sharply, and don't blink while I read this. And you tell me if this fits the description. And his garments became shining, exceedingly white, like snow, such as no launderer on earth is able to whiten. Is that what we're looking at here, folks? Would that be a good description of this light that we're now staring at? All right, you can stop staring at it now. I hope that didn't hurt your eyes. You know, strangely, when I did print this out, and when I take this picture and I stare at this thing, okay, you can see it on here. It's not covering that ridge totally like it is on that picture I just showed you. See, this is the original. You can see the ridge. On the one what I said moved and moved forward, it's now covering this ridge. You can no longer see this ridge. It's covering it up. But if I take this picture and I stare at it, it starts to hurt my eyes, and I have to quit looking at the picture. That's how bright white that thing is. Even the picture hurts my eyes. I think that fits the description. Okay, Romans 13, verse 12. The night is far advanced, the day has come near. So let us put off the works of darkness and let us put on the armor of light. The armor of light. Wow, that means we got to put on Yahuah, right? You know, we shine. If you have Yahushua HaMashiach living in you, when a demon sees you, you're shining to him. You have a white light glow to you. because they see Yahuah in you, who is light. And then they also see his name on your forehead, and they turn and run the other way. But you do appear as a light being or creature to them, made of light, because you are. You're the son of light now. If you have Yahushua living in you, you're his spiritual son, and he's light, so you're light. The demons can see it in their dimension. You know, they can see us as white, as lights, as children of light. So put on the armor of light, which means be immersed in the Ruach HaKodesh, is basically what that's saying. Let us walk becomingly as in the day, not in wild parties and drunkenness, not in living together and indecencies, not in fighting and envy, but put on the Master Yahushua Mashiach and make no provision for the lust of the flesh. There you go. That's good advice. All right, Ephesians 5. Ephesians 5, verse 6. Let no one deceive you with empty words, for because of these the wrath of Yahuah comes upon the sons of disobedience. Therefore do not become partakers with them. For you were once darkness, but now you are light in the Master. Walk as children of light. For the fruit of the Ruach is in all goodness and righteousness and truth, proving that what is well-pleasing to the Master. And have no fellowship with the fruitless works of darkness, but rather expose them. For it is a shame even to speak of what is done by them in secret, but all things being exposed are manifested by the light. For whatever is manifested is light. Is that not a manifestation? It is, and it is light. That is why he says, wake up, you who sleep, and arise from the dead, and Mashiach shall shine on you. What? Mashiach will shine on you? Wow. I'd say that's some pretty good words right there. Hang on, brother. Let me just finish a couple more and I'll be right with you. Hang on. I'm going to have to mute you guys so we don't get feedback here now. I'll be right to you. I only got a couple more verses here. All right. 1 Thessalonians 5, verse 5. For you are all sons of light and sons of the day. We are not of the night nor of darkness. Yeah, we're sons of light. He's light. Life is in the light. We have to get it, man. Okay, so here we go. We're now in 1 Timothy 6. 1 Timothy 6, 13 or 14. I charge you that you guard the command spotlessly and blamelessly until the appearing of our Master Yahushua Mashiach, which in his own seasons he shall reveal the blessed and only ruler, the sovereign of sovereigns and master of masters. What does that mean? Well, in his own season, he shall reveal Yahuah. What's that? Day of trumpets, the appointed times. That's in season. That's when he's going to reveal him. That's what this is saying. Which in his own seasons he shall reveal the blessed and only ruler, the sovereign of sovereigns and master of masters, who alone has immortality, dwelling in unapproachable light, whom no one has seen or is able to see, to whom be respect and everlasting might. Amen. So he's Ruach, dwelling in unapproachable light. Okay, so that's it for scripture reading this evening. Now we'll see what our friends have to say here. Brother Ted, how are you?
Oh, I'm wonderful. I mean,
what
an awesome testimony. That's all I can
That's
say.
all I can say. I'm
Sitting here cooking dinner
and
trying to cook
trying
dinner.
to cook dinner.
Mom just showed up.
But you know,
just watching and listening to everything you were doing while I was doing that, just all I can do was just be awed and almost, just fight through the tears, honestly, because I don't see anything there that I do not believe or agree with that you've shown me so far at all. And it almost brought me to the point of tears. And that's about all I wanted to say.
Well, that's a lot.
Just give a little testimony.
Yeah, and I don't have anything much more about it to say. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I can only relate with the four witnesses have revealed, and like I said, I didn't see it, man, because I was out hunting earthly treasure, and I had my mind on other things, and I was kind of broke down about it, kind of heartbroken, right? Because most of you know that I was on a long, hard quest to prove that Yahuah was real and he existed. And at the end, it came to head when I was communicating with him and talking to him, saying, okay, there's only one thing left to do, Yahuah. Show me. I want to see you. Just kind of like Moses did, Let me see your esteem, Do you love me less than them? You showed yourself to them. Show yourself to me, And here he did, but I wasn't seeking his face, and I missed it. And so I was heartbroken, right?
I can't even imagine. I really can't. Because I wasn't there, but I can only feel, what I feel from your experience. But yeah, it's just awesome. It's just awe-inspiring.
Yeah, and so I did make a phone call because I was really it was hard. It was a hard thing to swallow, and so I called one of our brothers, and most of us know Jason, and so I called him and I told him the story and how I was feeling and everything, and he says, "Well, Mark." He did it the way he did it for a reason. And you didn't really need to see him anyway because you have the Ruach HaKodesh in you anyway.
Yeah.
So you don't have nothing else to gain, but perhaps others do. And so he used you as an example for them. And, maybe more people will be delivered because it happened this way. And so that made me feel better anyway. Yeah. But I was still kind of bummed out that I missed it, Here I am hunting for earthly treasure. I can't even, it's hard for me to get that out of my mind,
When you were reading all the scripture tonight, it brought me to one that I don't, if I remember right, think that you covered it, but it brought me to think of this, Isaiah 60 at the very beginning, where it says, "Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the esteem of Yahuah has risen upon you. For look, darkness covers the earth, and thick darkness the peoples. But Yahuah arises over you, and his esteem is seen upon you. And the Gentiles shall come to your light, and sovereigns to the brightness of your rising." And that just...
Yeah, it's overwhelming, isn't it? The first script, the passages about light and darkness is overwhelming. It just overwhelms me, and it's like, wow, And what divides the light from the darkness? The 10 Commandments, the 10 Debarim. That's what divides light and darkness is the 10 words. We have to choose on which side we want to be in, the light or the darkness, right? And
Yes, sir.
on point to what you just read, how about the priestly blessing, man?
Yes.
25.
Numbers.
Make his face shine upon you. That's even in the priestly blessing, man.
Yeah.
Well, how can his face shine upon you if he's not light? Well, he is.
Yeah.
So that basically didn't it just say? Then we just read that his face appeared as bright as the sun, and his garments were white as light from the brightness of his face, of the light of his face. Right? And here it is. Yahuah make his face shine upon you, right in the priestly blessing. So, wow.
Yeah. Like I said, I didn't call in to give any. I was basically just cooking dinner but listening very intently, and just kind of fighting through tears. Like I said, it was a wonderful testimony, and presentation all together. And I thank you and Yahushua for, and your wife and your great grandchildren for all being involved and letting all of us out here take that journey with you, even if just for a brief moment. I think it was just beautiful, honestly. So
all esteem to Yahushua.
Yes.
And we're taking this to the brotherhood, to the beloved of Yahuah. And then we're going to take us to the world. One way or the other, this is going to get out there. And I'm not going to quit until I make it happen, man.
Yeah.
Or Yahushua makes it happen through me. I'm not alone in this. I got Yahuah with me, man.
Yes.
And his will's going to be done with this. He didn't do this for me to throw it on the bookcase and talk about it a couple of times and then go on to something else. This is something he wants us to share with the world, and I'm going to try my best to make that happen.
It's kind of an urgent message. Yeah, it's an urgent message.
You know what, I've seen videos. I've seen national exposure on the news, right? And videos go viral because somebody put a burnt piece of toast on the film, and they cooked a piece of toast and it burned it, and it looked like the face of the J-Man. It looked like a man's face with long hair. And you could just barely make it out. And it went viral and made national news. This blows that away.
Well,
if that made national news and went viral, so should this. We all know Yahuah, is the one that can make it happen. He'll show it to who he wants to see it, and he'll do with whatever his will is for whatever purpose he appeared to my wife and granddaughter will be done in his timing, and right now I'm feeling like he wants me to share this with the beloved first, write a book, and then take it to the world. And that's what message I understood and received. So that's what I'll be working on unless he tells me something different.
Right.
Let's see what Ollie wants. Hang on.
Well,
Ollie,
hey,
are you
Mark?
there? Yeah.
I'm actually going to finish up cooking dinner.
Okay.
And so I just, like I said, I just came on for that little brief, and I'm going to jet off and let you and Ollie hopefully talk. And then I'll still be listening to the end though.
I'll see you tomorrow then, right?
All right.
All right. Thanks for coming on, brother.
Yeah.
Hi, Mom. How you doing? Okay. I'm going to see what Ollie, if she's still on here or not. Ollie? Are you there? Hello?
Hi, buzzing. I'm getting a lot of buzzing sound.
I'm not hearing anything on my end.
Can you hear me?
Yes. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing good. I'm getting just a lot of static and buzzing.
Do you have YouTube still on? You have YouTube off. You got go up there and X YouTube off. And stay on StreamYard.
I StreamYard.
Don't get off the picture that what you're on right now and you're seeing me on. Don't get off of that, but X off of YouTube.
Okay, hang on.
So you're feeding back into YouTube is what you're doing. Or vice versa.
How's that?
I'm good. I can hear you.
I've got tons of buzz. Every time I talk, buzzes from my head.
Yeah, I don't know then, Ollie. I mean, did you turn off YouTube?
Yeah, I closed that.
Okay. You X'd it off, closed out? I don't know then. I'm not hearing nothing wrong on my end. It must be coming out of yours. But how you doing this evening? We can hear you fine.
You can hear me.
Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit now.
I've just got tons of buzzing.
Yeah. Oh, well. Okay, well, maybe we'll talk next time. We've been on for 3 hours anyway, so.
It didn't do this last time.
Yeah. Maybe you're having bad reception or something that happens. But I'm going to jump off anyway. I'll talk to you. Come back on next week. Same time, same place. We've been out for 3 hours and 25 minutes anyway, so it's time to get off. Kind of a long study this evening. All righty, folks. I want to wrap it up. Just want to re-emphasize to seek out Yahuah's face while he can still be found. We're entering into the end of the latter days. We're going into the days of Noah. We've entered into it. So things will probably pick up and accelerate at a more rapid pace now. We need to be sharp, and we need to be keen, we need to be seeking out Yahuah's face constantly and staying obedient to his word. All right, I hope you all enjoyed sharing our mini vacation. We took to Los Lunas, New Mexico, to the Covered Stone, to the Mystery Stone. For anyone who's thinking they may want to visit Los Lunas, Covered Stone, I just want to say to you that I can only promise you one thing, and that is you will see a big rock with the Hebrew script written on the face of it. And that's all I can promise you'll see. Okay? But I felt that when I was there, that I was standing on holy ground, and I look back at it. I wish I would have removed my shoes and laid down in the dust and praised Yahuah. You know, that's what I wish I would have done instead of seeking out the perfect treasure. So learn from my mistake, and I don't really know what else to say about it. You know, light is in the light, and the light came into the world. It's the light of the world, and we need to realize the forefather is Yahuah, known in unapproachable light, and we are the children of light. This, I think, will help. Other than that, I just want to say thank you for everyone that watched and studied with me this evening, watched these videos and presentations, studied out of scripture with me this evening. And thank you for everyone who was in the chat room chatting up a storm. Thank you for Pat and Ollie for coming on, even though she couldn't quite get her reception to come in this week. We'll look forward to speaking to her next week. And remember to stay in love with Yahushua HaMashiach. So long, beloved of Yahuah. So long, everyone.